November 9th, 2020. It is 7:10 p.m. Item number 1 to prayer, Counselor Bosco.
Dear Lord, as we continue to work on behalf of the good people of Enfield, we pray for wisdom that you supply us to all who ask for it. We pray for every family that has been affected by COVID-19. May your grace fall on every family who has lost a loved one. And we pray for our nation during these difficult days. May we focus on what divides us and focus less on what divides us and focus more on what unites us. We ask you this in the Lord's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item 3, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco.
Here.
Counselor Sakala.
Here.
Counselor Hemler.
Here.
Counselor Joyner.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Counselor Mancini.
Here.
Counselor Muller.
Here.
Counselor Miley.
Here.
Counselor Sferrazzo.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzette.
Here.
And I take it that Counselor Ungary is out for the night?
Correct, Suzanne.
All right, thank you. There's 10 members present. One is absent.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, the fire evacuation announcement. In case of a fire, we do have exits right to the back of the chambers. Move, please, orderly to your left and to your right out the door in case of fire. We also have exits to our left to the audience's right. Please go out the door. The first door is to your left down the stairs and out into the parking lot in case of a fire. Moving on to item 5, minutes of the preceding meetings. The special meeting October 19, 2020, and the regular meeting October 19, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller. Is there any additions, deletions, corrections, additions to any of the minutes? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We have 10 in favor and 0 against. We move right on to item 6, special guest. Donald Nunes is going to discuss the community gardens. Welcome, Donald. Hope you're doing well.
Mr. Mayor, I'll give the preface. Donald is going to give us an overview, and Kash will just have a couple brief comments because these items he is about to go over are on the agenda for action, but we thought it would be more appropriate to do it early on when people are able to watch, do it cohesively. So if you can hold your questions for when it comes up for items in discussion and we're going to vote on them, I'd appreciate it. But this is a continuation, I'll just tell you, of our very successful garden plot program. The council increased it substantially last year, more than doubled it. It was waiting list only. We've included pictures on our website. It was tremendously successful for our residents. So we've identified 3 additional locations. As you recall, we're currently down by Bigelow. We added one at Lamagna and some at Central Library. We identified 3 more locations because we want to bring this to everywhere in town. One is at Lafayette Park, which is a jewel that has been underused and, sort of fallen into disrepair, and we want to address that and remedy it. This is a beginning step. We also identified at Alcorn for 2 items on the agenda, and also out at Green Manor. So it's very exciting. We'll let Donald give you the overview. I think it's much easier to see when you see the actual diagrams, and then Kash has a couple words, and we can proceed with the agenda. As I say, it will be on for a vote later on in the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, Donald Nunes, our Director of Public Works. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me share my screen with you. Everybody good with that? Okay. So like Chris said, we identified 3 locations, and the first one we're going to talk about today is Lafayette Park, which is at the northerly end of Hartford Avenue. So right now, for existing conditions, we have some swings here. We have the existing basketball court, which is in a state of disrepair, and also this portion of a swing, like a playscape, if you will, which is also in really poor shape. So over in this location here, we're proposing 40 planter boxes with 4 compost bins and a tool shed, very similar to the ones we just put in. So in this location here, again, this is Hartford Avenue to the east, Lafayette to the south, and Union Street Extension to the west. This area of Lafayette Park, like Chris says, is a jewel that, again, just kind of fell into disrepair just from just from either lack of use or trying to get some areas that are usable, such as this area here, which is ideal for the planter boxes. Again, for solar orientation, the sun will rise over this way in the east and set to the west, so we shouldn't have any problems with sun exposure. We have a water feature right here. I'm going to back up one slide. We have this water feature right here, so that saves us the effort of having to bring in water from either Hartford Avenue or any one of the surrounding streets to get into the property, so we already have a bonus there. And we're going to surround it like we typically do with an 8-foot service gate to the shed and a 4-foot pedestrian gate on the southerly side. So over here, we're going to be upgrading something, part of the playscape at some point. But over here with the tent, with the basketball court is really shot. I did some exploratory work out there. We dug to try to find what gravel, try to find what's out there. If we could just peel the blacktop off and repave, it does not look like it is a viable candidate for that. So we're going to have to remove the blacktop, remove the soil that's underneath there, and replace it similar to Brainerd Park. So with that, again, this is a very typical 40-box layout with the compost boxes that help when people bring other things in there. We actually turn it and do other things so we can not have to use our own compost, but it actually turns the compost before the end of the year. So that's at Lafayette. And with that, with 44 beds total, the price is about $23,490. That's including the water, running the water line from that fountain to several points inside the park. So having B&G do the work and purchasing all the rest of the needs that goes with it, such as benches and hoses and garbage cans and like, about 20, just say 24,000 for starts. The next one is going to be at Green Manor Park, right across from Nathan Hale School. And this is the picture on the right shows the newer parking lot and the playscape that is just behind the back of this sign here. What we want to do is this is an optimal spot for sun exposure. We should be absolutely no problems with that. We want to put it right here, which is close to the road. I wouldn't say road, close to the walk that goes through and goes to the east. Again, we're going to be putting in 43 planter boxes here and having 3 compost bins on the easterly side with a tool shed, standard surrounding gate around here. We'll have access to an 8-foot gate for the tool shed, and the pedestrian gate would be through here. Now, the water supply, when all this work was done in the past, we had the pool there and other things, those water supply lines were no good. And when Hazardville Water, when Taylor Road was redone and they relayed the water main, they removed all of those previous corporations or water supplies from there. I did speak with Bob Sherwood from Hazardville Water, and he says that we can tap off of the hydrant main that is right here, as long as it's before the gate valve, which it is. We can run a small corporation, a 3/4 inch line like you have at your home. We can tap off it here, then run it, and we'll be all set for there. With 46 boxes here and running the water and also putting in the service in, we're at about $28,828 for Green Manor. And lastly, we're going to be putting one in at Alcorn, to the west of Alcorn. So right here, and this is the backside of Alcorn, if you will. And this is the former basketball courts that are now used for parking. So our proposal, again, is to put the planter boxes through this area. And again, here's Infield Street. And again, this is the former basketball court. And this aerial shows that it is striped for parking right now. So we're talking about putting in the planter boxes in this area over here and the newer basketball court over there. So this is the idea for that location that we'd be remodeling, and we'll get to the parking as more of a phased approach later on. If we need parking through here, this is how we would do it, but that's a different project. So we're gonna looking to install the 20 beds right through here, a tool shed, and our 3 compost bins. do have a water supply coming right out of the corner of the building. We'll just have to trench through and get it to there. So we'll have, it'll be some work to get it, but at least we have a supply close by. And on this area here, we would like to, this is probably the best spot and the most prime spot for a new basketball court. Same size as the Brainerd Park one, so a full-size court with a full-size safety area around it. And for these garden beds, for the 20, looking at about $21,000 for Alcorn. Again, the cost for the basketball courts for both of them are in a different thing. This is just these areas here are just for this $73,596 just for construction of the beds themselves. There are a couple more items later on for each of the basketball courts. We were requesting $75,000 to rehabilitate the one at Lafayette and build a brand new one in at Alcorn. So that is what I have.
Thank you, sir. And sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I would just like to say, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it was so hugely successful last year. People had something to look forward to because we did it previously, so that we were able to do it last summer. Likewise, with this, I don't want to wait to the budget. We're going to have major, well, not obstacles, but challenges and big projects to look at. This is small enough that we can do, and if we wait to do it in the budget, we don't approve it till July, and you can't do it for next summer. I'll tell you, it's the old give a fish, man eats for a day, teach him to fish, he, eats for a lifetime. Same thing with these gardens. Give somebody, a couple of tomatoes from your garden, they have a dinner that night, give them a garden plot, and their family has vegetables for the whole summer. Not to mention the experience they have doing this together. We charge $25. They get everything, the soil, the seed. We have a tutorial. That's why it's so successful. We just don't say, all right, you have the $25, go out there and have at it. We have a individual who we've used for several years who trains them, who's an expert in this. That's why it's so successful. And I'll tell you too, Public Works, the amount of time it takes for them to plan these is extraordinary. They're really experts. I think we should franchise it, and Joe, we should do it around the state and charge people because they really have it down to a science. And I will just tell you, in regard to the basketball courts, one of the biggest issues I have heard over the years, and I'm at the 4th of July and different town events, is, boy, and this is from young people that come up to me, you just rip those basketball courts out of Alcorn. Where do we go? We have nowhere to go, right? So we're almost encouraging, I've said it before, idle hands are the work of the devil. The theme about these has all been, the one we have done near Lamagna, there is a playscape. Alcorn, there's a playscape, and now there would be a basketball court and garden plots. Lafayette, we'd have the garden plots, a basketball court, and new swings. So you say to a family, Mom, Dad, whomever, go on, you can garden. The little ones can play on the playscape, and the teenagers can play basketball. And we're going to bring this all over town. So this, as I said, we moved out to Green Manor. We've done it at Central Library. The whole town should be inclusive. And I think, at some point in a few years, you should be on the map that has the most garden spots of any town in Connecticut. And, it'll be something that will be of pride. But we have a waiting list from last year's. So we'll get it up there. And Kosh is going to talk to you a little bit. I'll just let you know on the $75,000, I always believe we always have been a pay-as-you-go community. We identified in existing funds that we had left over in some accounts because we didn't utilize them over COVID, activities and events. So we came up with half of the money for the garden plots, and then the balance will come from the unallocated fund. So half of it we had money for. The 2 basketball courts are new, but I think it's such an investment in our community. I've said it before, we look to see the cost of not doing intervention, whether it's health-wise or with young people. And look what we pay later when someone isn't diagnosed early, and the cost of trying to save them later, or somebody that doesn't have something constructive to do as a youth, and we don't have any problem when they go to prison spending $70,000 a year to incarcerate them. I mean, this is such a small amount of money for the return we get, and people know we care about our community and our young people and our families. So I strongly advise it. I did it separately, though. We hear a lot today about severability with the law, so we did the garden plot separate and then the basketball court separate in case you're inclined to do one over the other. And I will just let you know that in regard to parking, a plan that's coming in December, we're working, just so everybody knows, I want to repeat it, that we're working on a plan to move social services out of High Street and sell that and put it back on the market. We're working on building and grounds, moving them out of there, putting that property on the market. We're looking at a plan to remove youth services and recreation from Lamagna and put those and the Strand on the market for apartments. And we can do that because the council had the vision to invest in an option for St. Adalbert's. We have a plan that's come in. I'm going to ask you to invite Mr. Bellick here from 6 to 7 a week from today to explain the plan to see if this is the vision we have for that with the basketball and the theater youth services. Because we have the Enfield Express, we're able to move some other services there. So we're going to be jettisoning property. That property that, was costing us so much to rehab and to operate, it'll be gone, all within our existing footprint, because we had a little vision to acquire some things where people I know at the time said to all of you, why are you bringing on more? We need to get rid of things. Well, we couldn't be getting rid of these other things if we hadn't taken the steps we did. So part of that in a long-winded way is at Alcorn, one of the divisions we'd like to go there, we'll be meeting with the Board of Ed, and also there'd be parking additional, because you know how difficult it is there and challenging. So I don't believe in stuffing things in half-baked and then you regret it. I want to make sure everything has a fit and everybody's comfortable with it. So I'll have adequate parking there, and I will just tell you, you see the town hall parking, we have games. This parking lot's full for the Enfield Market. Every weekend you couldn't even get parking here or behind at Higgins or on Main Street, but because we took the option and we're going to purchase the Enfield Express, we have an acre 1.8 acres, we already have it designed for parking that will double what Town Hall is for youth services and for Higgins Park. So you're being visionary. We're doing things that are going to change the town for the better for decades. And we're also looking, so you know, in my December presentation about the future of public safety, the complex out there, a piece of property expanding into Moody, which is part of the BL provision, and really scaling down, bringing things together to be more efficient and juxtapositioning us for the next 50 years, really. And we're going to be doing some things for bonding. We put a bond package together for Higgins Park. We have a bond package already submitted for the Enfield train station, and we're going to do a bond package for the public safety complex, just for starters, because we should get our fair share of state dollars, and I think we've been deficient in that, and I think all of our state reps and our state senator will help us. We should be at the front of the line. It's Enfield's time. So these steps show that we're committed. We're willing to put our money up front, but we need some help from the state and the federal government. I talked to Joe Courtney as well, and hopefully, I'm not speaking out of school, we've been working hard on the train platform, and I'm hopeful in a couple of weeks we're going to have another meeting over there about that or the train station. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So we're making a lot of progress, but this is quality of life. This changes people's lives for the better, and I hope you support it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Donald. Kasha, I don't know if you want to
Kasha,
speak.
yes.
Kasha, you want to speak now, or you wanted to wait till we actually got to the agenda?
I can speak now.
Go right ahead. Yep.
Sure. I just wanted to add that I've also been working with the Director of Community Development, and we will be working with Sustainable CT to do another match fundraising campaign. Nelson is also going to be going out looking for sponsors, corporate sponsors, business sponsors, and we will do some sort of sign or plaque commemorating who sponsored the community gardens. So there's going to be more to come there, but we're very excited about that campaign. If you remember from last time, we actually matches every donation made. And so that'll be coming likely in the early winter. And I will hope that all of you will support this and help us along with that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So if folks can hold their questions till we get to the agenda part. So this will be on the agenda, and you'll be able to ask your questions there.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Kasha.
Thank you, Kasha. We've had, again, a gentleman's been patient, so we're moving on to item 7, public communications. So you're welcome to come on up. Just make sure the light's on and name and address, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is John Santinella, 1204 Enfield Street. First of all, my grandparents would be thrilled to see more gardens popping up in Thompsonville, and so congratulations.
You can lower your, if you easier.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
can't
go right
see
ahead.
anything
Yeah,
with the
no
mask
worries.
on. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Members of the council, I am here tonight to speak about the memorandum of understanding that the council is going to consider with regard to the collection of fire district taxes between the town and the various fire districts in Enfield. I understand that this has been a practice that we have had in place for a very long time, and it's become standard operating procedure, but I think the time has long passed for us, for the town to stop collecting those taxes on behalf of the districts. The evolution of our fire services has taken place literally over hundreds of years, and for a variety of reasons, we've ended up with multiple fire districts operating within the town. Yet, the town is different, and we continue to operate those fire districts as they were originally conceived, and it is just no longer efficient. We have redundancies of equipment, personnel, and overhead that is literally costing taxpayers millions of dollars every year. We have 20 pieces of fire apparatus for 49 full-time people. In the last 2 years, we have seen $5 million spent on station renovations, $3 million spent on new trucks, most of which, if you ask the fire department, they would admit they don't really need those things. And think about what this council could do, or what taxpayer money could be better used for with all that money. And mark my word, there's still millions of dollars more of renovations and equipment purchases that are in the works that we don't have visibility of yet. The spending is out of control, and it's time that the town of Enfield stop enabling this wastefulness. In addition, we've seen several times over the recent years where the fire districts are allowed to operate with a lack of transparency, regulation, or accountability, and people should expect more from them. The districts themselves should be held accountable to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers should know exactly where their money is going. This is only going to happen if taxes are paid directly to the districts themselves and not couched in the annual tax bills that are sent to them from the town. The truth of the matter is, and you all probably agree, people don't even know that we have 5 fire districts because they think that you run the fire departments, and they need to have visibility to where their money is going. I know that there's revenue that comes to the town from the collection, but let's be honest, that revenue is taxpayer money that's coming from one pocket and going into another. It's not like we're selling ice cream out on the corner. It's taxpayer money. And the real cost and the real savings is when we cause the districts to become more efficient, cut down on their spending, consolidate their operations, and just run a better organization. So I strongly believe that the fire districts need to be responsible for collecting their own taxes. If the town is to collect their taxes, I think that you should insist on them consolidating into one solid department, that they agree that in that consolidation that there will be oversight of an independent commission, not former firefighters and commissioners running the department. And the town should consider very strongly rolling our EMS services into the fire department. While we have too many fire trucks, we don't have enough ambulances to serve the community. And those are revenue generating vehicles. And I think the fire department would do a much better job with that integrated into their operations than if it continues to be the standalone operation that it is. And if that were all to happen, and there's one district with one mill rate and everybody pays the same, then and only then do I think the town should re-engage in collecting taxes on behalf of the district. And you should do it for free, because at that point, it's a net savings and win for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Since we only have one person in the audience, declare public communications closed. You stick around and want to get the meeting as well, you can speak.
I'm sorry.
If you stick around, you'll be able to speak at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, council communications.
I won't.
Any councilors like to speak? Councilor Sparrow, and Councilor Mangini, and Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Just really quickly, I would like to recognize and congratulate our Susanna Lickney, the Registrar's Office, Mr. Fiore, Mr. Kedzer. We had this election, maybe the largest turnout ever, and unless you don't ever put the TV on, it's not the same in other parts of the country. I think things went flawlessly here in town, and I never believed that that's just chance, that's good planning, and people that did that planning need to be recognized. So Suzanne and Mr. Fiore, Mr. Kednitzer, and all the volunteers really needed congratulations for a flawless, smooth election. That's all.
Thank you, and I concur with my colleague, Councilman Sferrazza. They certainly did a superb job. and also to include the election workers. I don't think any of those people got paid anywhere near enough money to do the job that they did. The whole bunch of them is just amazing. So thank you, Carl, for bringing that forward. And also, I just wanted to mention that the Rotary, Enfield Rotary members did donate our 1,000 masks to our first responders, police, fire, and EMS. And I had Joe there with me. Thank you, Joe, who's one of our Rotarians, was so gracious and carried those masks in his truck for a couple of weeks until we could arrange with Steve Hall the proper delivery and, presentation. So just wanted to let the public know that Rotary is very active in our community, and that's just one project that we were successful in. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Suzak and Councilor O'Reilly.
Okay, I just want to note that on facilities that we finished the phase 3 of the Henry Barnard, so the original roof has now been re-roofed at that one school. Also, if you want to tune in to the meeting on Thursday, we're going to have a presentation of the work that was done on the annex pool. I mean, this was something that the Joint Facilities Committee, taking on the task of being the pre-ref, we did an analysis before the pool was removed at the JFK, and there was a commitment from the town council to upgrade the facilities there, and that work was completed over the winter and in the spring. So I think that it's really nice to see that, we work and we say we're going to do something, we get it done, and we have a presentation. So in following suit with what's been done here at the council. And also, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move items consent A1 through A3, B1, B2, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, and P to miscellaneous and proceed to vote.
Motion made.
Second.
Suspended rules, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Muller. Move all those items to miscellaneous to proceed to vote. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, by show of hands, all those in favor? Opposed, abstentions? We have 10 in favor and none against, Suzanne. All set, Deputy Mayor Suzak? Councilor Hall and Councilor Riley, then Councilor Bosco.
Thank you. And just a heads up, don't forget Bill out there in virtual land. Perfect. Yep.
Sorry, Bill.
I just wanted to share that, first, I echo thanking everybody who worked at the polls and everybody at the Register of Voters and Suzanne. You guys did a great job. Thank you very much. As everybody knows, Wednesday is Veterans Day, so a thank you to all the veterans out there. And just wanted to share that Great Clips Hair Salon in Enfield in State Line Plaza and Freshwater Boulevard is doing free haircuts for veterans on Wednesday, November 11th. And if you are a veteran and you don't need a haircut at that time, you can actually stop in and get a rain check for a free haircut within the month. So thank you to Lori Gates for bringing that to my attention, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Collett. Folks on the phone, please mute. Councilor Riley and Councilor Kleiner, I'll go to you after Councilor Riley. Sorry.
I know you told us to hold off on questions about the gardens and everything, and I don't have questions about the gardens. I think it's a great idea, but I just wanted to add in, don't forget about Brainerd Park. It's always busy over there. I mean, the sign out front is run down. There's bushes in front of the sign. You can't even see the sign. There's a large open area there that could get sun for plants and plantings. There's like old fitness stations around in the woods that are half there and half not there. So I think we should either clean them up so nobody gets hurt, or fix them, or maybe put them in, because that could be a draw for people now not going to the gym and stuff because of COVID. And maybe get some lights for the basketball court. But just don't forget about Brainerd Park, because a lot of people do go there. I drive by it all the time, and it's very busy. A lot of people are playing on those courts, and obviously they're playing softball out there a lot too. But I've seen people playing on the volleyball courts. The kids are on the play sets over there, so maybe next time around we can revisit that. But that was the only thing I had.
Thank you. Councilor Kiner, you have the floor, then I'll go to Councilor Bosco. Councilor Kiner, you have any public councilor communications? For-
I was going to be resigning.
Oh, Bill, sorry, I apologize, sir, you froze, you want to start again? Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead, sorry about that.
No, okay, it's fine. I was saying that I spoke with Mayor Ludwig and informed the mayor that I was going to be resigning from the Enfield Town Council effective upon the appointment of my replacement. I notified the Democratic Town Chair, Ginny Higley, and the Town Manager, Chris Bromson, last Monday morning about my decision. And what I told Chris basically was that I was resigning because I couldn't bear being on the council without Chris being at the helm. But seriously though, I've spent a good part of my adult life involved in Enfield politics and government, going back to, my God, the early 1970s. And for those of you out there who are political junkies, you'll probably remember the names of people like Dick Frassati, Frank Mancuso, Armin Roy, to name a few. And during that time, until now, I was either working for candidates and the Democratic Party or serving in appointed or elected office. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a long period of time. That's like 50 years. This is an opportune time, I believe, for me to retire from the council. The council, in its capacity as a search committee for a new town manager, will be working on finding candidates. I would like my replacement, who will be on the council with that new town manager, to be part of that selection process. Also, it would make sense that with budget deliberations coming shortly, I would like that person to be part of that process as well. So, as I have said, I truly believe that this is a good time for me to retire from the Enfield Town Council. And I must say that during these past 2 years, I've learned more than ever of the dedication to this town by both sides of the aisle. And I wish to thank the mayor for the courtesies afforded to me during my 2 years on the council. And though we in the minority party differed on some issues, there was always that element of respect, and I appreciate that. And I wish my friends on the council well, and I do consider you all my friends. And I would ask you to please respect the legislative process and to continue governing in the best interest of our town. It's been a pleasure these 2 years serving with such dedicated people. As I said, I wish you all well, and thank you for allowing me that service to the town. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's tough to follow that. Tough to follow that, Bill. You're going to be missed. Councilor Bosco, you get to go right after.
Actually, what I was going to do is I was going to do it under
You want to wait?
special committees.
All right, okay, perfect. Anyone else? Councilor Speraza.
I wanted to mention that yesterday, along with Councilors Suzak and Mangini, I attended the ceremony on the town green that our Macholik Post, our Enfield Veterans Council put together. Because of COVID, there was no parade. It wasn't a large gathering. But, you know, as we stood there, and there weren't a lot of people there, I recognized how fortunate we are to live in a town where we don't forget our veterans. The Veterans Council yesterday went to every cemetery in town, did the service. Our veterans were not forgotten. And I think in light of what's gone on this year, everything that we do in this country, every protest we make, every time we go to a polling place, it's all possible because of the American heroes that gave their life. And I am so proud to be part of a town where that legacy continues, and I thank the Veterans Council for continuing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And anyone else have any questions or comments? I will be brief. I know I asked this question before, and I know we haven't gotten a response, but per Mr. Santinello's question, can we reach back out and ask for a copy of the consolidation report from the fire districts? They have a response?
We can ask.
Can we ask? Like, I think it's a fair point that he made earlier that we should public should be able to see a copy of that consolidation report.
And I will ask.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I think, again, I think I need to touch on just a few things. One, I want to say, about the town of Enfield, there's things that you see with your own eyes that make you just sometimes stop and think how lucky you are as a human being. And I'm going to say this, I'm not going to use names I had the pleasure of being at the polls on election day. And as we're going through some of the things we're going through as a nation, remembering how important it is to show up in person and vote, how important that is to people. There's numerous different stories about one in particular. Elderly lady with her husband was clearly, she looked like she was battling the cold or something, standing in very long lines early in the morning. If people were there early, the lines that were at least an hour long, which is great. And so you can't really cut in line. Everyone's vote's important. But, the people in front of her were more than willing to let her to cut, because she was using a walker. And there was numerous stories. I know at every polling place in town. But if people want to understand Enfield, if you really want to understand Enfield, so I asked people, hey, look, did anyone mind, if she could cut and go in line just because she was using a walker? When I went to say, people, of course, said yes. So I go to tell her, ma'am, would you mind coming with me? I could bring her up to the front line. She looked at me, and she was actually pretty angry with me. And I had to admit, I was like, I go, no, I already asked everyone. Don't worry, it's okay. She goes, I don't cut in line. I mean, that's exactly what Enfield's all about. And that's what voting means to people. So I'm just saying is when you start hearing the Secretary of State say that they're going to want to change the state constitution to mail-in balloting, this is a very serious change of how we do our democracy. I don't care what you believe. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, whatever, conservative. This is a big deal. And it needs to be debated in public and have open meetings, not when there's only, the legislature is not in session, and you only have the rule of the governor right now. That is a big change, and that needs to be debated over a number of years. So I just want to get that out there. I'm against it. I don't care if I have any, it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying my experience in seeing the way people show up and how proud they are to vote in person, no matter who they're voting for, that is what America's all about, in my opinion. And on those lines, I want to thank every parent, every resident for, again, doing Halloween safely. It is great to live in a town where people act like adults majority of the time. And again, I thought it was a great success. People were out having fun. It was a great night. Kids were dressed up. If you wanted to participate, you could. If you didn't, you just turned your light off and you stayed home. That's what being an American. You have a choice. That's the beauty of being an American. And I can say this as a father and just as an adult. I can't tell you what a great sound it is to hear a kid laugh. I tell you, it's something we don't hear as much anymore with everything going on through COVID, and just seeing the kids out there having fun. It was great to see on Halloween night in this town. And on the other thing, again, we got to be careful. I think, again, my own opinion, when we're getting recommendations from any governing body on how to celebrate your holiday, the latest executive order scares me a little bit. And again, I'm not trying to be partisan or anything, but when someone's telling me how to enjoy my Thanksgiving, I got to admit, when government finally gets into your home, I'm not sure they're ever going to get out. So people need to, you celebrate safely. We're going to treat you like adults in this town because you've come through with flying colors in the last 10 months. But again, government's starting to overreach, and people need to start, again, no matter what you believe, understanding how far it's overreaching. And ending on a positive note, Wood Acres is another to talk about. Wood Acres is a great park out in Till Street area. Tons of room, would be great for one of the beds. And in closing, I just want to say, so we will have something formal. I don't want anyone to think that, Councilor Kiner, who just announced he's resigning, we will have something much more formal. Again, if people don't know how long Bill served for the council, but of course and I'm sure I'm going to ruin it, 20-something years in the state legislature. Maybe it was, I'm just paraphrasing, so anyone who, if I got it wrong, I'll get it right by the time we get, something together. but he served many years in the state legislature. He's been a teacher in school, obviously a town resident, and we really do try to treat each other with respect in this town, even though we do argue sometimes and we don't agree on everything. You know, Bill's always been a gentleman to me personally. And so again, I have to admit, when he told me, I was a little bit shocked, but I didn't want to say anything because again, it's really his moment and it's what he should have to say. But I want to say we're going to miss him. We'll have something much more formal. So I don't want anyone to think that we're just going to, yeah, we will have something. And, but again, we wish him nothing but the best. The one thing you learned about COVID this last year is you got to enjoy whatever time you got left on this earth. You got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy it. And so I hope he enjoys whatever time he feels he needs to do. And we'll have hopefully something very shortly for him. And so that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening. Councilor Connor, I'll give you the last chance before we move on.
No, I just want to say thank you for those kind words, Mr. Mayor. And as I've said, it's a pleasure serving with you and the other 10 members of the town council. And it was an experience that I will always remember. And I thank you again for those kind words tonight.
Sure. And we move right on to item 9, town manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've listened and I will take under advisement your suggestions, and certainly I think sooner than later we should always be taking care of our present infrastructure. So the Councilor Riley will make sure we go out to Brainerd Park and make sure it looks beautiful like our other parks, and we'll put that on our list for consideration, as well as Woodgate. And I'm glad we anticipate going online again and having everybody, now that they really see it and the pictures they really live, we hope people come out and we can have a list that we can do next year. And maybe we get, you know, the cost, I think, given the return on it, is well worth it. So all of these suggestions are great, and I appreciate them. I'd like to just take my time tonight to recognize a couple of directors to give a report. I'd like to recognize Suzanne Alekny, really along the same lines as Councilor Sferrazza. You know, we've watched in Town Hall Suzanne and her staff work tirelessly, relentlessly, inhumanly over the last several months. They were the unsung heroes. They were the unseen heroes, but we saw her here. When we were out enjoying the beautiful crafts on the farmer's market, she was in the dark with her people working in the vault to get the absentee ballots out, and then all of the work that goes on behind the scenes to bring them in safely and safeguard them, then do all the counting afterwards. I can't imagine how hard they work, but I'd like to recognize her and let her give a report to the council. And again, to the registrars, we work very well with them. They and their staffs did a great job all the way through, and there was so much that was done that people don't see. And Suzanne corroborated, normally we give about 2,000 absentee ballots. She gave over 8,200 out. So Suzanne, with that, would you like to please say a few words? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I know the council and the citizens would like to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for this time, because it was a very big collection, a very wild experience. We did issue 8,313 ballots, and the best part is 7,900 were returned. We turned them over to the Registrar of Voters for them to count, and on top of that, they dealt with over 13,000 ballots at the polls. So it was a huge endeavor, and we're very, very pleased with the outcome. We didn't do this alone, though. With our office from IT assisting us with choosing and installing equipment to process the ballots, Public Works installing the ballot boxes at convenient locations. They were at the Town Hall, the Enfield Express, and the Central Library. The police department provided escorts day after day to check the ballot boxes and empty them. It was just a real wonderful experience to talk with them. The finance office was also so helpful. They planned ahead. They had a new postage meter because they knew we were going to have a lot of ballots this year to postage send out. They made time for their staff to get that postage on those 8,000 ballots, and that meant taking other people away from their assignments. But mostly they were just so supportive and encouraging us every day to, you're doing it, and all that was really great. We had a great team of seniors during COVID. And we had a wonderful volunteer student from the Central Connecticut State University, and they were volunteers. They worked hard. They never quit on us. And sometimes they were doing pretty boring stuff, I'll be really, really honest, but they stuck it out. And we were also lucky to have 2 retirees return to help us, and their familiarity with the whole process was a huge benefit. I don't know what we would have done without them. And last of all, we have our own staff in our own office. They kept up with all the extra work. They maintained their regular work, all while keeping their great sense of humor and that we can do it attitude that they always have. I'm just so proud of them and what they accomplished. And my sincere thanks to every department that helped us out. It just was huge, and we're really proud of ourselves. So thank you for letting me say that.
Should be so proud of the work that our entire staff did and the council, so I thank you. Number 2, I would like to quickly, Cindy, did you hear me? Quickly, I also recognize Cindy Guerrieri. I like to follow up with things. We do things and we say we're going to give a follow-up, and I like to keep our promises. Council, a while back, funded an elderly liaison position to help our elder citizens in applying for Medicare and benefits. Hearing the feedback that Cindy is getting from our residents is so heartwarming. I said, could you please just give a little update to the council so they know what a success that program is, that they also had the vision to endorse and back. Cindy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And like you said, quickly, the Elderly Services Care Coordinator, Jen Switalski, has been throughout COVID maintaining contact with our isolated seniors, mostly by phone. But lately, she has been offering the Choices counseling sessions. And I can say that almost 100% of the people that come here to meet with her stop in my office on the way out and thank me. And I redirect it to the council made a great opportunity for us all in creating the position dedicated to serve them. And they cannot be more appreciative. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Cindy. I think, again, it's the testament that NEMFU would take care of, our residents from cradle to sunset. We don't leave anybody out of the mix. I would also like to have Steve Belinda, our HR director, come up. He has a report on the manager search.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Town Council and folks at home. So we met earlier tonight with a recruiter from Chicago, Joelle, and she apprised the search committee of the pool of applicants that she's been attracting nationwide. Overall, it was about 51 applications, but she has to go through her filtration process and winnow out the people that don't meet the qualifications and whatnot. We got down about 8 people. And then for a myriad of reasons, some of them are controllable, some of them uncontrollable, we lost about 4 candidates and we were down to just 4. We discussed that that's not an adequate pool of applicants for the town council to consider. So we went to Plan B. Unfortunately, Chris Bromson, after much begging, he agreed to stay for the duration until we get to the spring. We're going to suspend the search. This was a tough time right now with COVID and a few other things that we're looking at to increase the pool next time. We're going to address those. But fortunately, Chris is willing to stay on board until the spring, until we resurrect the search again, and we can continue with the projects that he's been doing, because whoever's going to come in is going to have a huge shoes to fill. And we want to make sure we get the best candidate possible.
And I think, Steve, it's the right thing to do. And again, I think Chris, he sort of jumped the shark a little bit, letting every project that we have going on, we have a lot of oars in the water, and Chris is leading the charge on, and especially, we're talking about, of course, Lamagna, we're talking about Strand, we're talking about the train stop, which again, the town already has its money in the budget. We just need the state to match us. These are all big projects that are going, not to mention the fact we're doing the water pollution control reopening, whatever word you want to use, updated, in hopefully December. We got JFK going on. We have what we just talked about, moving everything into the center of town with the police, the public works. Look at all the oars that are in the water, and having Chris continue to lead the charge just makes sense. He's doing a great job. Your staff is doing a great job. And it's, for us, it's actually a good thing because we get to keep Chris along for a little while. So it's not like we'll extend it as long as we can, I guess, right?
I know Chris can hear me now, but he poured his heart and soul in some of these, and he wants to make sure that he passes the baton on to someone that can.
Well, and I
keep it
think
running.
the point what Chris just said, I mean, if you've been in this town long enough, and he mentioned Lafayette Park, so I played basketball at Lafayette Park as a kid. I know every townie in town will tell you a story about a certain part of town, but we used to play there from morning till night, playing basketball. And I think those projects, again, like I said, the project for me over the last 2 years we've been doing all this stuff is the pickleball courts. First class courts that, again, any age, but again, mostly seniors, but again, anyone can play pickleball, and they're used all the time. Councilor Riley talked about Brainerd Park. Man, those kids and those young adults are playing basketball all the time. Knock on wood, we never have an issue. They're playing basketball, competing, learning how to compete, doing all the things you should do as a young individual. And guess what? Those things, again, and Chris is right, the things that we're going to do at Alcorn, again, bringing back that basketball court, those are things that are important. And again, that's why I think for us as a council, it's great, and as a staff, to have continuity and have Chris stay, hopefully as long as he would like to stay. So I think it's the right thing. So I appreciate the update, but I'll let you have the closing comments.
I will keep you guys updated as we learn more. I'll be working with Joel and a recruiter to tweak some of the things that we can do to increase the pool of applicants when it comes time to go out to the market again in March when we advertise.
Okay,
And,
you folks have been doing a nice job managing this, so keep up the good work, and we'll regroup in the spring.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have one more item, and hopefully I can get my refund back on the condo in Florida. But no, the staff has worked very hard. There's probably a tear in one eye, maybe a little bit they're happy, a little bit they're sad, because from the time I started, I knew my time wouldn't be forever. So we really worked very, very hard. And we, even when I thought we were leaving, we had our foot on the accelerator right up until tonight to try to get these projects and bring them home. And we have a few really exciting ones. And I know they're near and dear. I know, having been here it's my 31st year, and talking to the chief, we used to take walks in Thompsonville with former managers and not see any transformation, and now to go down there and see buildings that are demolished, to see the improvements that we're making there. I hear it from the mayor. I hear it from Donna with her love and passion. We haven't forgot roads and roofs, referendums, the infrastructure. Joey's been here a long time, and all of the councilors that are new and those who have been here for 4 or 5 years, they all had dreams for this town, and I think they're coming true. And it's because of your support and your vision. And I mean that. It takes vision in a town. So I think we're doing some great things for the town, and I'm very proud and humbled again to stay for a while longer to try to bring as many of those to conclusion as we can. So I thank you. Lastly, I would just like to say, we do try to recognize, and I had asked EMS, Erin, of course, she's in a motherly way, so I didn't want her to come to the council, and she's still coming to work. She's diligent. She did with her last baby, and she's doing it right up to the wire now. But the town EMS has received, we do remarkable work in our EMS, and we've been recognized in the past, and we just received, I believe, the highest status from the American Heart Association Mission Lifeline EMS Award Gold Plus, and that's for our early interdiction in strokes and heart attacks. And previously, we've been recognized by the Catheter Award at Hartford Hospital because we get our patients there sooner and quicker and save more lives. So I'd like just to make a comment to our EMS, because as Public Safety Director back now, it's probably 14 years when Carl was chief, we were instructed here, take over this service from the police department from scratch and make a town EMS service. And it was a little bumpy in the beginning, and we worked hard at it. But I'll tell you, we have the finest EMS service in the state of Connecticut. And that's not a boast, that's a fact. We offer 24/7 advanced life support for our residents. And people don't understand this is complex, but there's basic life support where you get EMTs and they come and they put you in the ambulance. They can't do much by law, and they're licensed and they get you to the hospital. We have paramedics 24/7 on every shift in this town. And I don't know, I don't want to mischaracterize what John had said, but we have enough ambulances. There's no deficit. We have the best ambulance. So this council last year paid for another new ambulance chassis. We paid for another new one in this year's budget, and we're putting money aside for next year's budget. We have the top-rated equipment, and we have the best personnel. But we don't stand alone. I've said in the past, it's a stool. It's a three-legged stool. It's police, it's EMS, and it's our fire departments. And working together, when you call 911 in this town, you are going to get the best first responders in Connecticut that come to help you. And they all work together in an incredibly collaborative way. I couldn't be prouder. And we're going to continue with that into the future. If there's changes and there's other opportunities to work with fire departments more, we will do that. But I will tell you, it is a highly regulated area by the State Department of Health and also our medical control at Johnson, and they recognize just the extraordinary quality of our teamwork and the EMS system that we provide to our residents. And I will tell you, I have to give a special shout out because, we saw all the signs, and it isn't too far ago, a few months, and we forget all the signs on the lawns. Thank you to first responders. 50% of our EMS staff got sick with the COVID. 50% of them. And they worked right up until the time they knew it, and then they were out. Erin worked, she's the chief of EMS, brilliantly to work with our support in the area and with our other departments to staff us up to the appropriate level during that period. And as soon as they were better, they all came back. And they're all working today, and they're again on the front lines. Do they have immunity? I don't know, but it doesn't faze them. It doesn't deflect them from their duty. They are heroes. And our police officers go to those calls still, and our firemen do. And together, they make a seamless EMS system. And I say Connecticut because sometimes I'm a little shy, but I think in the country, and I've looked where other departments and places have gone, but this system is incredible. And I get more notes and letters and thanks, and people at the park, the farmer's market, or come up and say, oh my gosh, your EMS came and saved my father's life. Your EMS came and the firemen were there and they did CPR and saved my sister. It's incredible. It is incredible. So I would like to just take this opportunity as we go into this perhaps next increase of the disease to wish them well, that they will be safe, and thank them for their service. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the town manager? The only thing, and I think it's great with Suzanne, I mean, if you listen to her phrase, they toughed it out. How often do you hear a town clerk say that? Tells you all you need about Suzanne. So again, they always do a great job. Full disclosure, Suzanne's been a friend of mine for many years, and she is a great town clerk along with her office. So not surprising they toughed it out, to use her term. And moving on to item 10, the town attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's nothing to publicly report this evening.
Any questions for the town attorney? Hearing none, moving on to item 11, report of special committees. Councilor Bosco.
Yes, the Public Works Committee met. We're working on the trash ordinance. We had a pretty good meeting. We're trying to figure out definitions and how this thing is going to go. I just keep asking everybody, please, if you have a question, don't go to Facebook for the answer. Give one of us a call, because we'll give you the right answer. There was things about the tipper barrels out there that weren't accurate. You're going to get your tipper barrels in the spring. You're going to get your tipper barrels in the fall. It's just that they're going to be limited in the summertime when you really don't need them. So please give us a call. We'll get you the information. We're working really hard on it, and this is not going to go through willy-nilly. We're going to make sure that we vet this out very well, but without your input, we could miss something. So we want to make sure we're very thorough and to get this done correctly, so it's done once and it works for the community. So that's all I can say is just please, if you have a question, ask.
Any other reports of special committees? Okay, hearing none. We move over to old business. Okay, sorry, I'll make sure I get my items. Item 12, old business, items A, 1, and 2 on page 1. There are no appointments. Moving up to the top of page 2. Again, old business appointments 3 through 7. There are none. Do I have a motion to remove from the table item 8, loan review committee, alternate position? Do I have a motion to remove? By Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Sakala. All those in favor of moving item 8, loan review committee alternate off the table by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 10 in favor, none against. Do I have a nomination, please?
Philip Colbert.
I have a nomination made by Councilor Muller, seconded by Councilor Sperazza. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close.
By Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Second.
Second by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions? The nominations are closed. Any other discussion on the main motion? Hearing none by, roll call, please, Suzanne. Sorry, excuse me.
Counselor Bosco,
4.
Counselor Sakala,
4.
Counselor Hemler,
4.
Counselor Keiner,
4.
Mayor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
Philip Kober,
Counselor Muller,
4.
Counselor Riley,
4.
Counselor Sferrazza,
4.
and Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Philip Culper.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving, items 9 on page 2 under old business, item 9 through 11, there are none. Moving items B under old business, appointments by the town manager, 1 through 4, there are none. To the top of page 3, again, old business, town manager appointments, 5 through 16, there are none. There are no appointments. Item C, P and Z Commission appointed, council approved. Item 13, new business. There is no consent agenda. And then appointments under new business, items B, B1, Enfield Cultural Arts Commission, the term of Jennifer Ryan is expired. This is a reappointment. Do I have a nomination, please?
Jennifer Ryan.
Made by Councilor
Second.
Muller, seconded by Councilor Riley. Do I have a motion to close nominations? By Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Sferrazza. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 10 in favor, 0 against. Do I have any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Sorry. Counselor Sakala,
Jennifer Ryan.
Counselor Hemler,
4.
Counselor Keiner,
4.
Mayor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
Jennifer Ryan,
Counselor Muller,
4.
Counselor Riley,
4.
Counselor Sferrazza,
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Jennifer Ryan.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Item B under new business, item B2, Enfield Culture and Art Commission. The term of Joshua Ombre is up for reappointment. Do I have a nomination, please?
yes.
Councilor Mangini.
I'd like to nominate Joshua Hamry.
Second.
Nomination made by Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Sakala.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Sakala. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Against, abstentions, 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco,
4.
Counselor Sakala,
Joshua Hamry.
Counselor Hemler,
4.
Counselor Keiner,
4.
Mayor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
Joshua Hamry,
Counselor Muller,
4.
Counselor Riley,
4.
Counselor Sferrazza,
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Joshua Hamry.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving under new business, item B3, Enfield Culture and Arts Commission. The reappointment of Patno, if I apologize if I say your name wrong. Do I have a nomination, please?
yes.
Councilor Mangini.
I'd like to nominate Damon Patno.
Second.
Nomination made by Councilman Mangini, seconded by Councilor Sakala. Do I have a motion to close nomination by Deputy Mayor
Second.
Suzak?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco,
4.
Counselor Sakala,
Damon Patno.
Counselor Hemler,
4.
Counselor Keiner,
4.
Mayor Ludwig,
4.
Counselor Mangini,
David Patno,
Counselor Muller,
4.
Counselor Riley,
4.
Counselor Sferrazza,
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Damian Patno.
Thank you. There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Items B, 4, 5, 6, and 7 remain on the table. Item C, appointments town manager appointed, council approved, there are none. Item D, appointments P and Z Commission appointed, council approved, there are none. Item E, any discussion or resolutions, there are none under new business. Items for discussion, B, appointments town council appointed, that's been moved to miscellaneous. Item C, appointments town manager, council appointed, there are none. Item D, P and Z Commission appointed, council approved, there are none. And item Q remains on the table. Moving over to miscellaneous. sorry, one second. Item 7, where are we? Bear with me, apologize. Miscellaneous, item 15. Let me get there for the consent agenda, A1 through 3. Do I have, one second, I'm getting there, sorry. I promise I'm getting there. All right, got there, sorry. Under the consent agenda, we have items A1, A2, and A3. Item 1, discussion resolution authorizing acceptance of 3 donations made to the Enfield Police Department of $1,400. Item 2, discussion resolution authorizing acceptance of funds for emergency medical services of $1,000. And item 3, discussion resolution of transfer of funds to the town clerk of $4,400. It's on the consent agenda, but I know we're going to vote by show of hands, but for public, can we just, maybe Chris, just acknowledge that, again, our residents recognize the service they receive. So I think all three, just a quick before.
No, that's correct. I think our residents do appreciate our emergency services and first responders, and occasionally they come by and they bring cash and they want to make donations to the police, sometimes to the K-9, sometimes for the food account, so the officers could perhaps, when they're working on the holidays, have pizza, and the same thing with emergency medical services, and that's what these reflect. The finance director has honored the wish and request of those giving the money so that it is going into those departments for the purposes specified in the notes of the people that donated the money. So I think it's wonderful that there's that kind of outpouring of support for our first responders, and I know they appreciate it, and I do as well.
Sorry. And just for the record, again, we want to thank the residents who took the time to recognize both our police and our EMS and writing letters, and then, of course, donating. Just kind of shows you the town that we live in. It's because our residents make this town what it is. And then, of course, we talked about Suzanne, her staff, all that overtime. Yeah, I mean, they earned it. So again, consent agenda, all those in favor of the 3 items by show of hands in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Suzanne, we have 10 in favor and 0 against for items A, 1, 2, and 3. And we move on to, again, in miscellaneous B, town appointments for town council appointed. B1, Area 25 Cable Television Advisory Committee. It's a reappointment of Mr. Walter Shermer. Do I have a nomination, please?
Walter Shermer?
By Councilor Muller, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
Second.
Motion made by Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions? We have 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
Walter Shermer.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mancini.
Walter Shermer.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzanne.
Walter Shermer.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. B2, Area 25 Cable Television Advisory Committee. Again, the term of William St. George is expired, and this would be a reappointment. Do I have a nomination?
William St. George?
By Councilor Muller, second by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Motion to close by Deputy Mayor Suzak, second by Councilor Riley. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands? Opposed, abstentions, 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
William St. George.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mancini.
William St. George.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzanne.
William St. George.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item E under miscellaneous, discussion resolution, request for transfer of funds for library grant of $52,236. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. To library fund of $52,236 from miscellaneous state revenue of $52,236, certified that the above funds are available as of November 9, 2020 by our Director of Finance, John Wilcox, and approved by our Town Manager, Christopher Bromson.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller. Second. By Councilor Mangini. Good stuff, Chris. I mean, I think Jason's on.
Jason, our director, is on, and I just like to acknowledge him as well. He's been a leader and an innovator in regard to libraries during the COVID and the pandemic. He and his staff came up with innovative ways to continue services, and one of the first to do curbside and many other services they offer. Too many to mention. You really have to look at our PAR report and on his website, but also because of his expertise, he served on some state advisory agencies during COVID because of his leadership, and this again is grant money that's coming to us to increase access during COVID, and I think he has some good ideas about how he'd like to spend it, so I'd like him to share those with us. Jason?
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. So we received $52,236 from the state library, and the intent of those funds were to increase the capacity of the library during the pandemic. So in taking a look at what we have sort of dealt with since March, we saw that the Wi-Fi signal, for instance, on the south side of the building where the parking lots are, wasn't as strong as we would have liked. We would have people calling and they didn't want to come into the building. They'd be in their parked car and didn't get a signal. So we're working with IT to try to expand the signal out that way. Also to the Rotary Pavilion, where families can gather outdoors, as Chris was talking about with the garden plots and the playscapes. This gives parents an opportunity for their kids to play. The parents can have access to Wi-Fi underneath the pavilion. We are looking at adding more outdoor seating. So again, on the south side of the building, adjacent to the community garden and close to the Rotary playscape, we're looking at adding roughly a dozen picnic tables so folks can use the facility outdoors safely. On the north side of the building, where we've got the walking paths adjacent to Middle Road, we're looking at adding an additional 6 tables out that direction. There's a good strong Wi-Fi signal there. During the pandemic, we've had people that are working from home that want to change of scenery. They want to get out of their house. So they're coming to the library grounds. They may not be comfortable coming into the building, but they're still trying to access that Wi-Fi signal. We are looking at, Chris had mentioned the curbside delivery service. We've been offering that since early on in the pandemic. We're looking at putting up a small shelter so that we can provide that service during unseasonable weather, during snow, rain. So we're looking at that. Another need that we have found is a lot of folks are trying to do the remote learning, trying to do they may not have that connection. We don't have any private study areas in the library. So there's no way for people to carry on these meetings, have a remote job interview without someone walking behind them, maybe browsing for a book or pulling a DVD off the shelf. So we're looking at either walling in some areas to create a more private area for people to use, or maybe bringing in some kind of, they call them pods, which is basically a small room prefab that goes into the existing building. So that's what we're looking at. There's a very tight turnaround time with this. We were notified of the grant in mid-October. It needs to be spent by mid-December. So myself and staff are working very hard at getting quotes and estimates for all of this. And as soon as it gets approved, we're going to start moving on it.
Thank you, sir. And any questions for Jason or Chris? You know, Jason, I mean, I think just one only, not a question, but emphasize to the town how again, give your staff some credit about being open when we opened. And we saw an article, I remember you sent it to us, I think it was in September-ish, when other towns decided maybe they would open up their library at that point. I mean, people don't realize, you know, for your staff, how long you've been open, knock on wood, successfully through this pandemic. And, but again, I mean, it talks about everything we've talked about tonight, about all the things that we've been able to, again, be successful because we've treated people like adults and we understand the value that the library brings to our residents. So, I mean, I think just if you could, let people know what your staff has been doing. Because, again, I think we're one of the few libraries, meaning town or state libraries, that opened up when we did.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. We were among the first. We were sort of on the cutting edge of doing the curbside pickup. Whenever phase 2 came around, we immediately took a look to see how we could safely operate the library. I can't give enough credit to the buildings and grounds for helping us out with providing the plexiglass dividers. We moved a lot of furniture to make it a more open space for people to more adequately social distance. The staff have been incredible. From day one, there's not been a complaint. Everyone has been great about wearing their masks. There's a lot of new guidance we need to follow, and everyone has been great about it. The morale has been wonderful. I don't know that it's been the same in other libraries around the state, but I can definitely say that our staff has been great. It's one of the best crews I've ever worked with.
Thank you, sir.
Mike, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I don't mean to overemphasize the heroism of our first responders, because that's true and that's a different thing. But all of our employees in this town, and I don't have enough time to mention it. If you go on when I did the presentation of what we maintained for services during the COVID, and the fact we opened up May 20th, the soonest that the governor allowed us to. And we meet, as I say, I meet with the directors virtually. We used to meet just twice a month after the council meetings, then we upped it to 3 times a week. Now we do it between 1 and 2. And our main concern is safety of our employees and our residents, and then how can we best continue to deliver services and be open. And I think this town has done a remarkable job. We have done that balance, and I think a testament to our residents. I want to just reemphasize that the biggest gathering in the summer, every single Sunday at the farmers market, hundreds of people over the day, maybe 1,000. Everyone wore a mask, everyone social distance, everyone was polite and civil and considerate. So we can do it in this town, and I agree with you. If we can teach people and ask people to do things voluntarily, that's when you get the best and highest compliance, when it's just like recycling. When people believe in it and they're educated, they want to participate. And I think we've struck the right balance in this town, and God willing, and I'm going to try my utmost with staff to continue that. We had to go through it once, and I think we have now at least a game book, a playbook, if we have to go through some bumpy waters ahead over the next couple months. But I think we know how to do it in this town. And again, the remarkable assistance of our town attorney to make sure that we were doing it safely, as aggressive as we could, but within the parameters of the governor's order. We didn't play any games. We followed the rules, but we were very proactive in trying to keep the services to our residents. And I want to thank everybody in Public Works and Town Hall, everywhere in the town, from libraries. I don't want to leave anybody out. Water Pollution Control. Once you start naming names, Gina, then you forget someone and I get in trouble. But all of the employees, all of our staff worked it heroically. And the council, you gave them their support. You had more meetings during COVID than pre-COVID. We met a couple times a week. We never stopped. I think we were one of the first towns to come back to live meetings. I think we're still, and I'll have Kasha look tomorrow at our staff meeting, I still think we're one of the few that have live meetings and invite the public. So this town, as you said earlier, Mike, is extraordinary. And again, it's a real privilege and honor to work here. And I guess that's why I've stayed 31 years. Thanks.
That was a pretty good. That was good. Maybe get another 4 or 5, I think he said. And that's what I interpreted. I don't know what else. That's what I interpreted. So I know I think differently. Suzanne, roll call, please.
Councilor Bosco. 4. Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Councilor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Speranza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Just 10 in favor and against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. We move on to item F, discussion resolution, request to transfer of funds for the community garden project of $85,000. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made from the general fund, two accounts, $40,000 and $35,000 to the general fund of $75,000 from capital non-reoccurring of $85,000 to the Community Gardens Fund of $85,000. We'll make the amendment in a second. Certify that the above stated funds are available on November 1st, 2020 by the Director of Finance, John Wilcox, and approved by the Town Manager, Christopher Bromson.
So moved.
And Councilor Muller? Seconded by Councilor Mangini. I will make the amendment. It was just a typo, but Chris, go ahead.
No, it's one of the few times that John has given me more money than I asked for. It was $75,000. He put in 85, and I said, "What, did seeds go up?" So unfortunately, he caught it. So this is the correction. It's $75,000 for the 3 new garden plot locations.
So I know we asked everyone to hold your questions. Donald, presentation for the public was at the beginning of the meeting. I'll open up. Councilor Kiner, you have any questions? I'll go out and all set?
No, thank you.
So Councilor Riley, I know you were going to have a question. I'll let you go first before I answer up. You're good. Councilor Muller, then Councilor Hemler.
Real quick, Chris or Kasha, how many people are on the waiting list and how fast did it fill last time?
Kasha maybe has the specifics, but I knew that
They went quick.
they were filled, I think, almost before they were built.
Oh, wow.
And so, Kasha, we can look at the updated list tomorrow with Lori, and why I'm excited because we'll go out there and we'll promote this on the manager's report, our website, our social media to let people know these are the new locations.
And they can sign up on
and
the
they can
website.
sign up. We did it last time, and that's why we were so successful. That's why I want to do it soon. Give some, people something to look forward to for the spring.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councilor Hemler.
I just have a comment. I absolutely love the community garden projects, and especially upgrading anything for kids for sports. Keep it going, because it's definitely a good community thing, and yeah, I love it.
Councilor Bosco, then Councilor Mangini, then Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Okay, I'm nowhere near against this, but my big question is, do you think we're going to be able to fill all them beds? That's quite a few beds to put in. And the second half of my question is, if we do Higgins Park, is there still going to be room to put a softball or a baseball court down at Lafayette? If we decide to put the amphitheater in there, and the softball court goes away, we're going to need a place to put it that's close.
We've been looking and working with those who use the current field. Lafayette really wasn't a location, I think, that we were even under consideration, so I think we're good there. And I'll defer to Kasha on the waiting list. I know we had quite a few people, and given as long as I think we advertise it soon, I think it is kind of geographic, Joe, so that when we do the Lafayette, I think you're going to get people from there, people from Alcorn, so we're going to get new users, and same thing with Green Manor. I don't expect a lot of transporting across town for the spots. They'll, I think, be generated from the local area, and we'll see, and we'll keep you updated. If in fact then we fill them or it's only half, then next year we won't expand it unless it's a different location and we get sort of we would go online and get people to sign up before we do it. This year, I think just with COVID, we wanted to get it done sooner, and given the success rate we had last time, I thought that we have a very good chance of filling it. Kasha, any comments on that?
Chris, I just echo what you said. I don't actually have the exact number for the waiting list. I know it filled up quickly. I agree with you. And I do think that the locations are going to play a big part. We've heard that there's a need for these all around town and not just concentrate in one area. So we hope that will attract the residents who are in walking distance to these new gardens.
Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. Yeah, just for clarification, I think, excuse me, Jason indicated that the library grant would cover the community garden there at the library, if I'm not mistaken. I think he meant.
No, it was not for the gardens.
They're already built there, so
All right.
Yeah.
So we have existing gardens there.
Yes,
Yeah,
20.
in the back, Cindy.
And then, as far as Brainerd Park, again, it's not part of this plan, but is there an opportunity for us to put a community park plot, if you will, garden over at Brainerd at some point?
Well, we can look at that now and just see. Brainerd is used quite heavily, and it didn't seem to be as conducive for a community garden to us with the younger because of the ball fields. And Yeah, and it's shady and wooded, so that's why, but we'll still look at it, and we'll come back to council with an
Whitacres
assessment.
out in Till Street is a hidden gem in town, plenty of space. It would be a great spot for a community garden.
So we'll still look. I hope we have that problem that we have too many requests and, the council has to
I'm
decide.
just trying to cover all areas of town.
Well, we've been doing that. We've looked, and also water source is important
Yes.
because that's a big expense. So we've looked at places, and also what I've tried to do is do it in tandem, like I said, to have a theme, to have the basketball, to have the playscape, and to try to have the garden. So it's just you can come with you may want to come and have young ones, and they're running around in somebody else's tomato patch. So this way, if they can be on the playscape, or you can watch them playing basketball, it's more of a family endeavor. But we're going to look at Brainerd, and we'll look at Woodgate, and we'll look elsewhere as well, and I hope anybody at home, if they have suggestions, it's never too soon. If we do add one, we're looking for funding, as we said, and people to match it. So they're around 20,000 to do 40. We raise 10, and it's 10 from the council. We can put them up at any time. If all of a sudden we have a community or a neighborhood that inundates us, and I encourage them to do it and says, hey, we would like you to consider one for us, we'll work to get the money and the funding and try to get it on schedule for this summer if there's the need, as Joey said, and we can fill it.
All right, thank you. I just want to make sure that we're looking at the whole picture, and it's good that the public is being made, aware of the project so they can come forward. with any
And I'll just say,
ideas.
at Central Library, there's another area beyond that could, have, we want to share. We want to go to Green Manor, we want to go to Alcorn and move it about. But there's space even at the Central Library to expand as well. I think it's going to be a phenomenally successful program. I think it already is. I think people, working in, I garden, I love to do it, and I know others of you do. And there's nothing like planting it, seeing it grow, and then actually picking something and having it in your house. I think it's a great life lesson for our children, and you can do it even when you get old, like me.
Thanks, Chris.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Oh, you have to mention that, huh, Chris? I guess I want everybody to know that, out at the Green Manor, this will not, impede the completion of the skateboard park. There are two wings on either side that we need to, and I guess that's maybe something that Leisure should have on its radar. Now, these all have to go to P&Z, correct?
We are looking at that. We did last time. I would
Yeah.
rather, because I like to have their input. The town attorney's looking at whether they fall under the structure or not. I think we'll err on the side of caution. We did it last time, and we'll see what the town attorney says. We'll talk to the chairman, because they were avid supporters of it. So I think I like everybody to have input and see if they have any concerns. So I think we
Especially
will.
for the basketball courts and stuff
Well, the
like
basketball
that.
courts, yes. The garden.
They're definitely
will-
going to
will-
have to go.
But I like their input. It's nice to hear from all of our
Right.
different
And
commissions.
the other place that'd be nice to get a little input from, and I try to explain this to the commissions and things like that, is the Conservation Commission. They oversee a lot of land in town and different things, and I think that, sometimes we have a lot of commissions, and they sit like little satellites, and we really need to get that web going and pull everybody in. And, I said to them, you want to get something done in the town of Enfield? Invite the DPW to your meetings. That's how we did it in Leisure.
Any other question? Councilor Sakala?
I just have a clarification. I think this is a great idea. Are we putting it out there for people to sign up first and then building, or are we building and then having them sign up?
If you build it, they will come. We won't be
You
able.
and all of your sayings. It's like six
I
or
know,
seven of them
I know. I
tonight.
can't help it. It's what happens after so many years.
Oh, my God.
I hope some of them still make sense, but no. What we'll do is we'll get out there with the list, but we're not going to. I don't believe we're going to break ground until the spring. So to Joey's point, and Kasha can correct me, we did that last year, and we'll make sure. If we don't get any response whatsoever, then I would put the brakes on it. And maybe in the interim, if we got another neighborhood, we'd come back to you, because me, I don't ever mind changing direction and pivoting. So we'll look and see that, but we'll get it out there for the signups right away, and they're not going to do it. My understanding is until the spring. That's what we did last year. So that's a great point. I appreciate it, and then we'll be able to address Joey's question as well. If we don't get enough people, we'll reconsider, or maybe we'll get it in another area. So thank you.
Thanks.
All set? Councilor Kiner, any questions or comments? No? Anyone else have any questions or comments? I just have two things. One, I don't know if Donald's still on. As we look, again, but could we look in, there's a nice walk path where the gardens will go based on the diagram, there's a little walk path that goes to Webster Street, and people use that, and it's in tough shape. I mean, it's all, there's a tree that's growing and it's ruining the sidewalk, so I don't know, maybe if we could fit it in to kind of repave that, because if you haven't been to that section of that park, right when you come from Webster, you go through the little walkway, to the left, there's a nice little bench, and it's really cool. And then where you guys are going to have the gardens is a perfect spot to what you're talking about.
All right,
so I'm
we'll-
just saying if we can, if not,
We'll look at it. We'll bring it up at the staff meeting.
yeah,
in the
no
morning.
worries. And for the record, so I don't want people out there, it's Whit Acres. Not
okay.
Woodgate, Whit Acres. So I know those folks out there, but again, that's I think a great spot when we look, if we do the, to expand. And I think the other thing, Kasha, I think maybe, I don't want to jump the shark here, but ideas that we talked about on Wednesday about, again, sort of some of the other ideas when it comes to your point on community gardens, but also flower pots.
Yeah, I'll just
just ideas
give a
we're talking
preview.
about, right.
Maybe people out there would like
Right.
to participate. We do have a lot of creative people on our staff. We have a great staff. And one of the things we've been talking about, and we couldn't do it last year, we didn't have the time, we're looking, and we're going to involve beautification, that committee. But we're thinking flower boxes. Some other communities have done it. We'd like to do
It's
it
a
sort
great
of
idea.
along the same pattern, that we promote it, and we give the box and the soil and the seeds for your area, and bring that to everywhere in town. I've been to places, and Kasha has too, and others, and it gives such a sense of community. And you know what? I think sometimes you have to have investment in your home, your yard, your neighborhood. And sometimes I think perhaps you're renting, you don't feel it as much, but we knock on their door and say, you're renting, but this is yours. And you know what? Somebody walks by and drops a wrapper or a cup, they're out there going, don't do that near this is my little God's little acre, my little piece of heaven. So we're going to do that, and we're going to involve beautification. And I will then give you the preview too. This council committed, we had to, obviously in cooperation, an edict by the DEP, what we dredged the freshwater pond the year before for $500,000. DEP, it was brought to our attention about the spillway. We accelerated. We were going to replace it in 5 years. Last year, even though it was a tight budget with zero tax increase, council made that a priority. We're replacing the spillway at the pond. Donald, we asked to incorporate to put a protective barrier in the top of the spillway so we can do some improvements in recreation on the pond. The next meeting, we're going to be coming to you. I think it's very exciting, the improvements we have in mind there. There's food trucks in the summer with community policing, with the farmers market. I think it's going to be a real draw for children. I won't say more. We're going to work out the logistics, but that's something else we want to fund now to have the investment so we can promote it for next year. So we're really investing in a lot of different areas. And these are things in the recreation that they can come from everywhere in town to enjoy. They did for the market, and I think they will for Freshwater Pond.
Thank you, sir. I will make an amendment, so on the line from and to, under capital and non-reoccurring fund, change 85,000 on both locations to 75,000. That's the amendment I'm putting forth, and I have a second by Councilor Sakala. So again, this is an amendment just to make sure the numbers match. It's for 75,000, not 85, it was just a typo. I made the motion, Councilor Sakala seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? I mean, on the amendment? Hearing none by show of hands for the amendment, all those in favor? Opposed, abstention, we have 10 in favor, 0 against on the amendment. Now on the motion as amended, any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none. Suzanne, roll call, please.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hamlin.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mancini.
4.
Counselor Miller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item G, discussion resolution, request to transfer funds for the basketball and park upgrades at Lafayette Park of $85,000. Resolve that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfers hereby made. From general fund of $85,000 and from the capital reincurring fund of $85,000 to the playground improvement construction services of $85,000. Certified that the above stated funds are available as of November 1st, 2020 by our Director of Finance, John Wilcox, and approved by our Town Manager, Christopher Bromson.
moved.
By
Second.
Councilor Muller, seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Is So I think.
I think you have the plan there. It's to do the new basketball court and to just do swings, to do the community garden plots. And I will tell you, I encourage you to go out there. I had gone out there years ago with Chief Sferrazza when we were walking, and we said, my gosh, we looked at the map, there's 20-something acres there. There's adequate parking. So this is the beginning of the utilization. We hope then to move forward perhaps with a dog park and a nature walk trail. And I'll tell you one thing, it's, you learn interesting things. At least I listen when the governor comes, and he told me how much he loves parks and thinks there should be more of them. So when we look to do our bond request, that certainly is going to be part of it. And I always believe, and the governor does too, and I mean this sincerely, public, private, state, and local partnerships. We're putting in some money. We put money up for the platform, and I hope they're going to put up. We're putting money in. We're just not waiting for the state, and I hope that they then reward us, showing that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is. So that's the future vision of Lafayette Park.
Councilor Kiner, any questions? Any questions from anyone in the council chambers? Councilor Hemler?
Is that supposed to be 75,000?
No, 85.
Okay, I thought they were all supposed to be 75, so my mistake.
Good question. And I only say is that, to your point, people don't realize behind there, what a nice little section that people, if time has forgotten it, so to speak. And you're right, there's a great little area there that we can develop into a real nature walk that I'm sure no one remembers that exists there in town.
No, and we know every summer, look at the demands we have on Scannick Park. People from all over town want to go and jog and take a walk and their dogs. I know that from all over town, they'll go there and they'll utilize that. They'll say, wow, this is just, again, and we'll have total control over it now, Donna. It will be a town park with town rules, and we don't have to be beholden to the state. Although I don't want to offend them. They were good partners this year.
Don't offend them.
They were good partners this year at the Scannick River.
Hearing no other questions, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Bosco. 4. Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Councilor Kiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Mullen.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
10 in favor, none against, no abstention.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item H under miscellaneous, discussion resolution, transfer of funds of basketball courts at Alcorn for $75,000. Resolved in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8 of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. From the general fund, capital and non-reoccurring fund of $75,000 to the town playground improvement construction services of $75,000. Hereby certify that the above funds are available on November 1st, 2020 by our Director of Finance, John Wilcox, approved by our Town Manager, Christopher Bromson.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Mangini. I don't know if there's good news. I mean, we've.
No, I think it's good. I
Yeah.
think, again, it's reinvesting in the community. We took something away, and I think it's appropriate we put it back. And I'd just like to remind our residents, and John's available for later questions, we haven't forgotten some other things. The transfer station and the employee, that's going in the CIP. We're going to be looking at that in the broader budget. So we haven't forgot any of our commitments. But I want to remind our residents, too, that because we went out and put our bonds out for rebid earlier in the year, we saved over, probably over a series of, over $1 million. And that's real money. We went out for our insurance and changed from Travelers to Kerma and saved a premium every year with, I think, an incredible company of almost the same amount when it's all said and done. So we are being good stewards. We're saving money and then we're reinvesting it in the community. Because my friends, when we pay a bank higher interest rates or we pay an insurance company, where does that go? To their CEO and their shareholders. Where does this money go? To our residents. So I just want people to know that we're saving money in a big way, and when we're reinvesting it in a smaller way, but I think a very laser-like way that really will help improve the quality of life. So I want to remind people, we save this money already, multiple times over what we're spending here.
Councilor Kiner, any questions? You got any questions from anyone in the council? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Bosco. 4. Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Councilor Kiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Mullen.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. On item I, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution. Resolution authorizing the town manager to enter an agreement with the Ed Advance for the CTFRC Network Hub contract. Resolved that the town manager is authorized to sign the Ed Advance CTFRC Network-Enfield Hub contract, subject to review and approval by the town attorney, in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield, and to affix the corporate seal, submitted by Cindy Guerrieri, the Director of Social Services, on November 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller.
Cindy Guerrieri is online. This has no budget impact. It's an extension of a contract, and she can give you the basics and answer any questions.
Welcome, Cindy. Cindy, just name and title, and you have the floor.
Cindy Guerrieri, Director of the Department of Social Services, Town of Enfield. This is an opportunity that actually came to us, and the theme of the night is, Enfield's recognized for all its hard work. We were approached by Ed Advance on behalf of the Office of Early Childhood to serve as a regional hub. It would be really helping to shore up the early care and education that's available in a safe way during this pandemic, giving people, parents that need to go to work, especially our first responders, options between home-based and center-based. The home-based childcare providers has been utilized more than even center-based, although our own center-based is really operating well. But to this end, we're going to be asked to maintain a hub that will provide resources, educational training sessions, and coaching for family child care providers. And we want to remember that these providers are business people, and we're supporting their business practices and increasing their business acumen so that they can maintain providing the care that families have come to expect in Enfield and surrounding towns.
Thank you, Cindy. Councilor Kiner, I will start again. Any questions? Any questions from anyone in the council floor? Cindy, two quick questions. When you mean care provider, you're talking about the parents or anyone living at the house, correct?
No, these are family child care providers.
Okay.
So they're licensed as family care providers.
And just what service do they provide a family? Just curious. I mean, how does it work?
It's child care and education in a home-based setting.
And they can either go to where would they go if they didn't want to do home-based? You said the center, where would they go?
So center-based care, like our Enfield Child Development Center.
Perfect, right?
Where we do in a center, yeah.
I mean, this is fantastic. Again, understanding what a working parent is going through right now is so important in this community. And I don't know if you said we got awarded or you went out after it. Either way, it's fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
They approached us because of the reputation that our Family Resource Center has, a long-standing provider network of the family child care providers, personal relationships. And so because of that, we were approached and awarded.
Well, it's great news. Fantastic for you folks. This is great. It's timely, it's needed, and it's great to hear that we're going to be the regional hub, because Enfield should be the regional hub of all this stuff. So, it's great news. This is really, again, hopefully, like you just gave us the update on the senior advocate. At some point, could you let us know how this works with the family? Because I think this is a huge need for working parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Heller.
4.
Councilor Kiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Riley.
4.
Councilor Saraza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstention.
Thank you, Suzanne. Item J, discussion resolution authorizing the transfer of funds for the Family Resource Center CTFRC Network-Enfield Hub contract of $43,000. Resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. To the Enfield Resource Center of $43,000. From the Enfield Resource Center CTFRC Network Enfield Hub, donation contributions of $43,000. Certified that the above funds are available as of November 9, 2020 by Director of Finance John Wilcox and approved by our Town Manager Christopher Bromson.
So moved.
Councilor Muller. Second by Deputy Mayor Suzak. And this is pretty straightforward. We just talked on Cindy's. Anything else you want to say? But I think this is just the money.
Nope, that's it.
Councilor Kiner, any questions?
No questions.
Any questions for anyone in the council chambers? Seeing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Heller.
4.
Councilor Kiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mancini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item K, discussion resolution, a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the agreement to the mobile shelter diversion agreement with Community Health Resources, Inc. Resolved that the town manager or his designee is authorized to sign the attached amendment to the mobile shelter diversion agreement in the name and on behalf of the town of Enfield, prepared by our town attorney's office on October 28, 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller. I think Cindy's still up, or?
Yeah, Cindy's up, and again, this is again a testament to our social services department. This was again a unique and exemplary award to the state. She can give a little background to the homeless shelter diversion grant. We were picked out again regionally to implement it. There was some delays on the state end, and then of course with COVID, this is a no-cost extension to that grant for a subcontractor, the subcontractor CHR that works for the town. But Cindy can go into it a little bit again. It's accolades to the town for receiving this and recognition by the state for the good work we do in social services for our residents. Cindy?
If I could just kind of take it one step back, this is actually, the town attorney had raised up that we got a no-cost extension on the current shelter diversion grant, and the subcontractor agreement with CHR technically expired June 30. And so this is this is actually to align our current grant year with our no-cost extension and the subcontractor agreement through the end of December of 2020. We did in fact get a renewal application, but we're not quite there yet to be able to discuss next steps.
Okay. But we did receive it. Could you just at least tell what the shelter grant was that we did receive that is
We
the...
received it's really a continuation of providing shelter diversion for families that are either homeless, families and individuals that are either homeless or near homeless, to connect them with supports and resources that would help them stay out of the shelter system, which is really very much struggling, especially with COVID, and then connecting them in ways that we hope they can become stably housed and sustain that housing.
And just could you just let our residents be reminded of how much that grant was for, Cindy?
$250,000 for a 12-month period.
Thank you.
Any questions? And again, this is one of those programs, Cindy, where we've been doing this for a couple of years, and it's again, we're being proactive. We're trying to prevent people from losing their homes, and this is one where at some point, I really would love to see a very in-depth presentation so people realize the impact that having that. Again, we're keeping people out, trying to keep people off the street. That's the key. Because unfortunately, once they get there, then it gets even more problematic, as we all, as you know, and most of us know. So I think that's what's been, when we did this grant, I think this was 3 years ago, and then we finally get the money, I believe, I think it was winter, if I recall. So if at some point, again, this would be a great presentation and remind people we're trying to be proactive as opposed to, reactive. And I think it's really important. This is, again, a cutting edge, program that we're doing, not only for Enfield, but, for some of our area towns as well.
Yes.
Any other questions from anyone? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mancini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
4.
Counselor Srazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item L, discussion resolution under miscellaneous, resolution amending the police captain job description and wage adjustment. Resolve that in accordance with Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby amend the job description and wage adjustment to increase both police captain positions prospectively to the annual rate of $116,930, effective on January 1, 2021, approved or submitted on November 9, 2020 by our Director of Human Resources, Steve Belinda.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Belinda is going to come up. Our HR Director, Chief Fox, is on the line. I'll just tell you by way of background, this affects two of our captains. As you all know, we worked and had our collective bargaining with the police department adopted some months ago. I guess this is perhaps best termed the law of unintended consequences. The town had looked at comparables in other communities, and in the wisdom and under fairness and equity, the council increased the salaries of our detectives, sergeants, and lieutenants that were below par across the state for like-sized departments. At that time, we didn't consider the captains because they're not in the union. And thereafter, it had gone through and it had come forward through the chief and to Mr. Belinda's attention about this. And they call it compression between ranks, that, a sergeant makes more than a patrolman, and then the lieutenant makes more than the sergeant, and then the captain should make more, and then the deputy chief and the chief. So this is an adjustment. Normally, we do these adjustments during the budget, but this is extraordinary and outside the budget process because it was done via the collective bargaining, and that's what impacted it. It's not a personnel issue that I could address because the council has funded these captains' positions in the last budget at a certain level, and so we need your imprimatur and vote to increase it, to adjust in accordance with the recommendations of Mr. Belinda. So I'll leave it to Mr. Belinda, and then the chief, and then open up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. In my over 10 and a half years I've worked for this town, I can count on maybe 2 or 3 fingers the amount of times I came forward before this council to advocate for a single position, a wage increase of this size. And the reason why I do it very hesitantly is because my credibility is important to the town manager and to the town council. So if I'm going to stick my neck out, I better make sure I know what I'm talking about before I embark on that journey. As the town manager mentioned, there has been a wage disparity with the captains. It's been simmering for a while, a little bit. Before we went to arbitration, but once the police contract was adopted, it then became more glaringly apparent of how much of a disparity there was with the captains vis-a-vis the next lower rank, which was lieutenants. Factor in that the deputy chief position is vacant. These captain positions are literally a heartbeat away from taking over control of the police department should the police chief become incapacitated. That's a dangerous option. I am concerned on the integrity of the wage structure in the town police department. I'm concerned that we have given them more responsibilities under the Police Accountability Act. They've assumed responsibilities from the vacant deputy chief position. And quite frankly, if one of the captains leaves, a lieutenant would not go for that position because they would take a pay cut. So there's all kinds of red flags now screaming at me saying, we have to address this because it's now an integral problem in the PD, and I can't allow the town to continue without coming forward and expressing my concerns. When we had a wage disparity with Director of Social Services position, because I couldn't fill it when I went out to the marketplace, I came forward, but I was being reactive. And to use the mayor's words, being reactive and proactive, I can't afford to be reactive in the position of a PD if we were to lose any captains, because there's only 3 white shirts there, and we can't jeopardize the PD. So having said that, I looked at all the empirical data that was provided. Right now, these captains are making the lowest, I think, in the state of Connecticut. I can go to Suffield, you could pick any town you want. You will see the wage disparity. It's almost embarrassing. And I cannot in good conscience allow that to continue without coming forward to you guys to restore the integrity to the PD. We made good on the police contract. These are the only 2 positions that we need to correct. The chief said that we can absorb this cost in his current budget if we do it prospectively from January onward. So I would recommend that we do adopt the wage or salary increase prospectively on January 1st. And it would align the captains to more on par with our sister town of Middletown. It'll put them not at the top, not even at the average, but right where it's palatable and we can have back and integrity restored back in the wage structure. I can let the chief delve further into the new responsibilities that are assigned to the police captain, and I'll defer to him at this point.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity, as always, to speak to you tonight. As you've heard, we have in this present situation a rather timely convergence of rather 3 significant events. the recent resolution of the police department union contract, which has exacerbated the pay compression issue within the captain's rank, the council's decision to eliminate the deputy chief's position, which eliminated the position but didn't eliminate the work that was fulfilled by the incumbent in that position. And finally, the passage of Public Act 20-1, the police accountability legislation. I would remind you that that is 46 sections long and 71 pages long. And that work, which is considerable, has to be divided up. And the number of the amount of work within the workloads, mine included, but the two captains as well, has risen substantially. So we're before you tonight to address solely the captain's issue. What you have before you is an effort to rectify that, to place the captains in a fair place in regard to the individuals they supervise, and to place them, as Mr. Belinda referenced, about, at least on the count of the towns that we did, they will be going from dead last in Hartford County to 9th of 13 towns that we looked at. So they won't be average and they won't be middle of the pack. They'll be at a more palatable level than where they are now, where they are substantially down compared to everyone at that rank in the county and in comparison to the people that they supervise.
You all set?
I'm all set, yeah.
I'll start, Councilor Kiner, any questions?
No, Mr. Mayor, but I would like to make a comment or two if I may.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. The Public Safety Subcommittee debated this issue a couple of weeks ago, and we voted unanimously to increase the salary of these two gentlemen. You know, we stated before so many times, if you want to keep and retain and track the best and the brightest, we have to pay for it. As the two previous speakers have said, and I hate to repeat it, but it needs to be repeated. These two gentlemen are receiving salaries lower than every other captain in Hartford County. And compound that with the fact that now they have to take on the duties of the deputy chief. Equity really demands, I believe, an increase in salary. And I think the increase of $10,000, maybe that's not even enough, but it's a good start. And I would highly support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I would just, if I might, I would like to thank you, Mr. Kiner. I was remiss in not saying at the outset that we did follow the procedure, that this did go through the Public Safety Subcommittee for their consideration and recommendation to the full council, as is our procedure. So thank you, Mr. Kiner, for stating that.
All set, Councilor Kiner?
I am, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Speraza?
Mr. Belinda, for maybe the citizens that are watching and they're not clear on this, how many sworn police officers do we have in our department?
We are budgeted for 95 sworn police officers in the union, plus the three other managers.
So how many of our officers, our sworn officers, are not part of the union?
3.
3. And as such, they do not receive, because they get a salary, they don't receive overtime for anything over 40 hours. Correct?
That's correct. They're exempt salaried employees.
And our union people, when they're on call, they get paid a stipend just to be on call for that week, correct?
That's correct.
How much is that?
I don't know at the top of my head.
About $200.
About $200 sounds appropriate.
So our captains are on call. Do they receive a stipend?
No, they do not.
Do you know of any captains in Hartford region, or in the state for that matter? Let's back up. Do our captains have use of a cruiser?
I think if they do, it's very limited to just go home and come back.
From work, right?
Correct.
So if they're out somewhere in the middle of the night and an emergency call comes in, they have to drive to their home to get the car to come to the scene, which delays their response, correct?
That's correct.
Chief Fox, do you know of any captains besides ours that don't have use of a car, personal use?
I do not. We are rather an outlier in regard to the limitations that are imposed upon the captains and the use of their vehicles. They enjoy their vehicles effectively to the same extent that union members do. This is not, that have assigned vehicles. They do not make use of the vehicles beyond that.
So, in the end, what this amendment will do is to bring equality and, again, not to enrich these people beyond what they deserve. This is going to put them 9th out of 13. And just a reminder, there are towns that are not CALEA accredited. There are towns a lot smaller than us, where they're, and the workload is a lot less, and our captains are making less than them.
That's correct.
So based on that, I would certainly hope that we could unanimously support this. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Any other questions or Counselor Hemler?
I just have a comment. I mean, our public safety is definitely number one. And with all the things that we've spoken about, I mean, they definitely deserve the money. And with the additional responsibilities, they absolutely deserve it. So I am definitely in favor of this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Counselor Riley?
I just had a couple questions. So I guess I guess I'm kind of wondering why we didn't address this when we were going through the contract, because it would have been nice to be able to vote on everything all at once. It's okay, you don't have to answer, but is it appropriate for me to ask how much are the captains making now and how much they're going to increase their salary by?
That's very appropriate. Both questions.
I can answer both of them. We did not include this with the police contract because we didn't want to jeopardize the police contract. We were at, if you recall, a very lengthy arbitration process where we were expending tens of thousands of dollars to attorneys' fees. It was very sensitive, the whole police contract, and we didn't want to jeopardize it anyway by piling on and saying, oh, these are non-union people, can we just throw them in at the same time? We wanted to just focus like a laser that contract because that addressed 95 people. That was the big nut we had to take care of first. We didn't want to taint it with distractions or anything else. But having said that, though, we knew eventually that we would be coming back to the table and, you know, unfairly to them, we're depriving them of an increase they should have been gotten. They're in the contract, but we postponed it until we're proposing January. So it actually
And just
saved
to
the town
clarify,
money.
I will just say that it only came to my attention after the collective bargaining agreement was approved. And that's not unusual. Steve and the chief were dealing with this, and, you know, you could try to address a myriad of things. If the chief said, well, do they have a take-home card? I mean, it's Pandora's box. So they are the experts in it with our attorneys. They did it, but as soon as it was resolved, I never got the sense when they came to me after that it was hidden or that this was something lying in wait. I think probably they thought, hey, it's going to arbitration. It's going to be a couple years before it's resolved. Certainly, we're not going to request a pay raise at this time. But when they saw it was adopted and the council was favorable to it, I think they then brought forth their grievance to the chief and to Mr. Belindis. As far as I know, that's the timetable. But it came to me after you voted the collective bargaining, and they said, well, the captains, you know, want to be adjusted. And I said, well, we'll have to go through the process, and we brought it to your attention then.
And to address your other question, what are they currently making? We have one captain making $106,930, and the other captain is making $103,814. And then let me just make a note that a top step lieutenant is making more than that, $103,958. So it's actually upside down.
Okay, so in effect, we'd be giving like 10,000 to one and
Well, what we want to do is bring parity to both of them because they're both out. They're not in probation. They're both doing the same work. We have one job description that can be assigned interchangeably. So one captain would be brought up to $10,000, and then the other one would be brought up to an additional $13,116,000. To bring it, both annual salaries would be $116,930 as proposed in the resolution.
Okay. And then I don't know. I value public safety, and the cops are amazing here. I have some reservations about not doing it during a budget cycle kind of a thing. So I guess I'm sold, but I'm not completely sold, is kind of where I'm at on this. But that's just my 2 cents.
Counselor Mangini?
Thank you. Thank you, Steve, for your presentation. The part that disturbs me the most about this is that there is that disparity between the captain and the lieutenant. The lieutenant is making more money than the captain as it stands.
Currently, right now, a top step lieutenant, which we have, is making more money than one of the captains.
We need to bring equity to our captains. We need to make it fair. And if this plan, that you put in place is going to bring it more equitable for both of the captains, and again, with their job duties increased, absolutely, I would support going forward with this. It's, unfortunate that it has happened, but we've got to make it right. And I'm understanding this will be effective January 1st?
Correct.
And I also understand there's no budgetary impact.
Correct. When I discussed with the police chief, we have some flexibility in hiring. He has some vacancies, and we can just delay that hiring of a patrol officer to help backfill or fund this until we have it, because we didn't want to go back to council and say, hey, we need more money. We were there. That's why we're doing a half year. And is that correct, chief?
It is correct. There is rather a built-in lag time in the hiring of new individuals, and that's how this would be absorbed.
But we should understand in the next budget, when we're fully staffed, that this will be an increase of that amount. And I want to be, to your point, very clear about this, that in the contract, there was disparity, and we thought that all of the ranks, sergeant, detective, and lieutenants in the union were underpaid compared to other communities. And by no means by giving them the step up we agreed to, do we make them comparable with all like-sized communities. We can't solve all of the problems in a day. But I do want to be very clear about this, and I'm not speaking against it, but I want the council to be aware, in all fairness, we, looking across the board, gave all of those ranks, detective, sergeant, and lieutenant, a $2,500 bump up approximately, correct, Steve?
That's correct.
So this is 10,000. It's 4 times. So if you don't think there may be some talk from all of the others in those other ranks about it, I think you kid yourself. Now, the reason I'm not objecting to it is because we're recognizing that there was a disparity in compression before. We are addressing that by doing the 10,000. Now we are restoring what should have been done over time. But I want it to be clear, it's more than that step increase, but it's fair in regard to the fact you have to have about that $10,000 between ranks. Somewhere over time, it collapsed. So we're correcting that. But I want you, if others ask and say, well, why did you give $2,500 to the others and this is 10? Because we're trying to restore that compression, and we're recognizing the fact that we did eliminate a deputy chief. These 2 captains have absorbed those responsibilities and the increased work of the Police Accountability Act. So I think it's appropriate. But I want to be clear, because somebody uninformed might say, well, geez, why are they getting a more significant increase? And that's the reason why. We're trying to remedy something that occurred over decades and take care of it. As the mayor said, we want to keep on coming back. We don't want to do 25 and then, so let's do it. If we're going to do it, let's do it correctly. And whether, I won't speak for the mayor, but he's a leader, because whether he believes in something or not, or has reservations, he always lets us go forward. He lets us talk about it in the subcommittee and the full council, and he lets the council vote its conscience. So I just wanted to state that for the record, so later if people have questions, there's an understanding as to what our thinking was.
All right, thank you, Chris, also, and I definitely will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bosco.
Okay, I'm going to support this. And I would have supported it at the union contract, where I'm very upset about, especially hearing as Chris didn't know about it. That should have been told to us right at the same time. 2 separate things. And I would have supported it, because this is the right thing to do. But it was not the right thing to do, is to do it now. because it should have been told us, look, if we're going to agree on this contract, it's going to make a disparity here. And really, you need to vote this one and this one at the same time, because it's not fair that these two officers even had to go the time from the time that the contract was put in to January. And that's because someone dropped the ball or didn't want to say something. And I find that very troublesome. And I don't want to hear this stuff. You know, this is one of my biggest complaints on the years I've been on the council. And not that you guys, maybe someone did it on purpose. I won't say there was any malice. But we need to know the facts, good and bad, because everything we do goes on decision on something that we were informed on. And if we get bad information, or not the whole story, we cannot make what's best for the town of Enfield.
I understand that, and the message is out there. And as I say, when Steve brought this to me, I did not get any sense that there was any.
I'm not
because
saying
you know
there's
what?
any malice.
No, and like you say, we would have done it then. I know the council would have, and I would have endorsed it. And we would have done it in one step instead of two. So it's one of those
And
oversights.
it wouldn't have changed, at least with me, because I can only speak for one. It would not have changed me agreeing to the contract. The only thing it did is it really brought some heartache to the two officers that
were left out. And we would have addressed, I know the council would have, and it would have been easier to do it then. And as I say, we all learn from these things. And if I had thought in any way, I would have been very upset. Well, but it was one of those things. I think it was sincere. It happened.
I just wanted to
and as I say, Steve knows Steve knows we always bring full disclosure to the council, good or bad, and you can decide. And it would have been a lot easier to do it with the contract and not have to do it now. So, and you're right, for the officers to not have to have this agita about it.
And can I just address that? You know, after arbitration, I think everyone on the management team had battle fatigue, including the captains. They weren't even saying anything. It was, hey, what about us? That was the furthest thing from even their minds, to their credit, because we weren't thinking that. No one was thinking that. All we were focused on was that contract. That was the big outlier for a couple years. So myself, the chief can speak for himself, and the captains, no one was bringing this to anyone's attention. And then it was until after that, then they said, okay, we did good with that. And maybe they needed that as evidence to support their case. I don't know. I can't speak for them.
I don't think there would have been any problem.
That's good to know that what you're saying.
It's just that, you know, this is where I get, we hire all these people to run these departments that are a heck of a lot smarter than me. And you need to bring the information to us so we can make a proper decision. And when we don't get the information, and I'm not just talking this thing in general. I mean, it could be something in public works. It could be something anywhere. If we don't get the full story or something that, if we don't get accurate information, we can't make an accurate decision. And there's been votes that I have done that I regret it because I did not have all the information. And that's not right. But that's water over the dam. In my opinion, they deserve it, and I will be supporting it. But I just, you know, for future things, I'd like to get everything in and know the ramifications from here to here, so there are no surprises and there are no hurt feelings either.
No, I appreciate your point, and it's duly noted for future. Thank you. Yep.
Councilor Sperrazza.
Just one last thing, Steve. When the police contract was settled, how long did the rank and file go without a raise?
It was settled in August of 2020. 2017 was their last raise.
So they've gone almost 3 years?
Correct.
With no raise. When they got was it retro,
Well, they took it zero.
Right.
And then it went retro to 2 years.
So they got 2 years retro.
Correct.
In this resolution, is there a provision for retro for these captains?
No, it's just prospective.
Okay. And I'm not advocating for that at this point. I think we have equity here, but just to show they deserve this. I'll just leave it at that.
But my only point on that, though, is remember, when you negotiate, and you negotiate as hard as they do, you go a few years without a raise, and we both went to arbitration in professional manner. So I don't want to sit there and think people think that we didn't give them a raise. They were negotiating through a contract, so that's binding arbitration, the good and the bad. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chief.
Roll call, Suzanne, please.
Councilor Fosco. 4. Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Hemler.
4.
Councilor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
Against?
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Wells.
4.
Councilor Riley.
Present.
Councilor Serrazzo.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
We have, I'm sorry, 8 in favor, none against, 2 abstentions. No, I'm sorry, there was 1 against, 1 abstention, forgive me.
No problem, Suzanne, thank you. Moving on to item M, discussion resolution adopting the Public Information Officer job description. Resolved in accordance of Chapter 7, Section 2 of the Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the job description of the Public Information Officer. Submitted on September 11, 2020 by our Director of Human Resources, Steve Belinda.
So moved.
Councilor
Second.
Muller, seconded by Councilor Mangini.
Steve Belinda will come up, our HR Director. This is a job description and a stipend that we're recommending. As the council well knows, today we are in a social age, and we need to address that. We need to be able to fully inform our residents as quickly as possible when we have late-breaking incidents in fall, such as the hurricane we had, such as the windstorm, and then also just on a weekly basis to promote the garden plots, to talk about the farmers market. We have had sort of an informal process of having a public information officer over the years, which really hasn't worked out well because nobody wants to do it. Why? Because there was no stipend to do it, and it was always on evenings or weekends or holidays, so it's a heck of a thing to ask an employee to do that and not get compensated. So much like the chief talked about earlier about canine officers and detectives being on call for, say $200 a week in case they're needed to come in, this is a $500 stipend. It's in the manager's prerogative who we will have do this. The only thing we're requiring has to be a current employee, has to be somebody we trust. We hope they're local and in town, and they have to have some training and had some courses in public information and experience in doing it, because you don't learn on the job during a hurricane. And also be able to be trusted with the confidential nature of our computer system. I will just tell you, it's much like we did Kalia. This went through the process. We had somebody in-house, Tommy Pierce, that was doing it, and he was our favorite, but we went through the process, went through the subcommittee, public safety, came to the council, and we advertised it. He was the ultimate recipient of the job, rightfully so. On this, we went through the same process. Steve worked with Deb McCarthy, who's been doing the job without compensation through the hurricane, through the windstorm, a couple of, after the hurricane, we had the windstorm sweep through. We lost another 8,000 with power. Just coincidentally, that day we had a winter storm meeting with Eversource and their upper-ups. I had said I was going to have Deb be doing it informally until council took action. That night, we had those storms rip through, thousands without power. Because Eversource knew her name, I was on the phone with her at 6:15. She had it out and was giving information to the residents. And we had the most remarkable Eversource response of 5 crews being here. And I had calls from counselors to say that within an hour. And I had our Public Works Department tell us that they'd never seen a response from Eversource. And just as a fact, between 6 and 8:30, we had over 2,000 people follow our Facebook and our emergency management page, and Deb was updating it with Eversource and me every 15 minutes to a half an hour. So that's what we want to do. They're going to, or whomever gets it, is going to be responsible for all of our social media and Facebook promoting our programs, and then be available in emergencies. And like I say, I do it as manager. You compensate me well enough to do it nights and weekends and on holidays. Not somebody who's on, in a department that's a secretary. We can't count on that person to do it. And frankly, over the years, no one's wanted to do it because of that. So Deb's done a great job. I hope she applies, and if she picks it, but then any manager going forward will have the prerogative. If somebody's out, I can say, Steve, would you do it for a month? And please do it and sign on. But it has to be somebody we trust that has real interpersonal skills, does not affect the police department. I was there for 12 years as public safety director. That is so unique and specialized. It has to be the chief of police, as Carl did it. as our chief does it or their designee. This is not going to be a responsibility of a civilian working part-time to talk about a hostage situation or an unfolding police matter. That will remain squarely within the confines of the chief's office. So with that, Steve, you can talk about it a little bit and we can answer questions.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, and I am a living former PIO, Public Information Officer from Storm Alfred. I think former town manager Matt Koppler put me in charge of this, and I'm going to admit, I did it because whatever he wants me to do, I'll do. But I was very clumsy about it. I had to rely heavily on Deb, actually, to help me get up to speed with the technical software. That's why I think I learned how to do Facebook. A lot of social media that I'm not adept at, and she was. This is an important position, and even though Deb is probably the most qualified I could think of, that doesn't mean she has to be the only one. We should have redundancy in this position. That's why we put the $500 stipend, because if someday Deb is on vacation or is not around, I would like to have a backup, and that we can assign it to them, because it's that important. It's not just for social events, but a storm burst, a microburst.
And Steve, thank you for reminding me, because we get state money for an emergency management director. Steve Hall does a great job. But again, he can't be available 24/7. During the hurricane on the weekend, he had out-of-state plans and commitments he paid. He left. Chief Fox helped, and Debbie did it again. And the other night during this, it was 6:15, and Steve Hall, he was umpiring one of his children's games. He wasn't available. It was over before we got a hold of him. So she's also, or this person, is going to be the backup to the emergency management director to make those calls and have those conduits. We need redundancies. So I expect Deb to do it, and then we'll get some other people in the Quay that are interested in it. Deb's had the courses. She'll continue to update. But that's what we need. We're too big a town, and we're in an era of storms and changing circumstances. Our public expects, demands, and deserves up-to-date information via the social platforms of the town. We have to respond and be in the moment. And the only way we can do it is by having somebody who's conversant in it and is able to step up and get the information out quickly.
And one other thing we added, in addition to being a current employee and someone that we can trust, but we also want them to have a local presence within a certain radius within town. If they don't live in town, very near town, because that's what it will take sometimes, that they'd have to come in and get into the town hall, do whatever they got to do. They'd start spreading the word on whatever their emergency is at the moment. So we've been doing it for a few months now with Deb, or maybe more than that. But now I think it's making it right and making it a more formal process. So she gets rewarded for what she should be doing, and anyone else that wants to line up and groom themselves to be in this role.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Sakala.
Thank you. Well, it's about time Deb get paid for all that work she's going to do after hours. So explain to me how the payment's going to work. So you're going to have a backup. Is this stipend going out every single month, or is it only going out in months that there is an emergency? And if you need to use more than one person in a month, how does that work?
It's going to be one person. Whoever applies will be the actual designee. We want to groom some people too, if they want to take courses and be prepared in case the designated PIO isn't available. But this was a good question that came up in public safety. Lori Ungeyer had asked the question. And Carl, you want to answer it? I mean, he talked about the on-call.
Yeah, basically what it is, I think, is that there are situations unknown to us that are going to occur. In the police department, we never knew when we're going to have a fatal accident or a homicide. And when it did happen, I had to have somebody there within 30 minutes, right, for that type of event. So what we negotiated, which is standard in all the police departments, that officers take turns in these specialized units being on call. They get paid a stipend for that week that they're on call, and they're required to respond within 30 minutes. They can't leave the state and all that type of thing. If we don't put that in place, you could have a situation where you have a disaster and you don't have a detective available, and then that's unacceptable. So that's why we did it, and this would be something similar.
Right, so my question
No, but the question is, she gets paid, whoever gets it will get paid $500 a month, because what we're going to do is we did the community gardens every Sunday, and we post to Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
We do the garden spots. So we're going to augment it with other, in the job description, to do social media for the town on a weekly basis. But we're not going to get anybody to do this if we say, you're not getting any money, But you know what? If there's a hurricane, we want you to work Sunday, Christmas, and then we'll pay it to you. So as an inducement, you've got to do it on call, like we did basically what the unions negotiated, or nobody's going to want to be part of it to say, well, yeah, when you need me, I'm not even getting paid, when our unions come in, God bless them, but they get, if it's a holiday, double time, more than that. We're not going to be able to attract anybody if we say you're only going to get paid if there's a hurricane. Nobody will sign up.
So whether this person does 1 hour or 30 hours, they get $500.
That's correct. They're on call. They're
For 0
for that-
hours.
For that month.
And we're not,
Or 60 hours.
I'll report back to you too. We know from the farmer's market, that was every weekend,
Yeah.
and it was 2 or 3 hours, and it was a Sunday. And then posting during the week and talking to vendors, same thing with the garden. So I'm going to make sure that somebody's doing several, hours a week, but I don't want to commit to any specific amount.
No, that's fine.
But it's
I
a
just
fair question.
Needed to know how.
And we can give you the update, but that's why we tried to incorporate social media as well, because I just think I'd like somebody to be doing something on sort of a steady basis. But the $500, like I say, when we did the hurricane for 4 days, it should have been $500 a day. So, when you need them, they're worth $500 an hour. And when you don't, you say, well, how much did they do this month? And they got $500. So that's just...
And the reason why we're doing it as a stipend is because we don't want this to be part of their base salary, which would increase their pension. We're segregating that and just leaving it as a stipend. Okay.
All set, Counselor Sakala? Counselor Bosco?
Well, if I'm remembering right, probably about 7, maybe 8 years ago, I think 2 years in a row at budget time, this came up as a full-time position, and it got dropped. So I guess this is a good...
In that situation, we've tried to be so versatile. It's like when we took the safety officer and we took it and we got 2 blight officers out of it. We had a part-time safety. We're willing to move things around and get the best bang for our buck. And here we didn't think, again, and I know that was a position, I was in the, I said, that's crazy. It's too much money for how much work they're going to have. But for this we can get a lot done, a lot of bang for our buck. But that's why we're trying to be innovative, and that's why we always look at the job descriptions. That's the starting place, and we try to get as much as we can for our money. And by the way, I'll just say to the public and anybody that 2 of our 3 blight officers have retired. They were already retired officers, so anybody we don't need them as much right now, but we will need them in the spring and fall. So if you know anybody, you don't have to be a police officer. It's just preferred. We're advertising, but if you do know any from surrounding towns, please let them know. It's about $20 an hour, 20 hours a week. And they have a good office and good equipment, and the fellows we've had have enjoyed it, but it's open to everybody, ladies and gentlemen. So get the word out if you know anybody.
Counselor Kiner, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Again, just brief. I mean, great. We realized we had a need. We pivoted, and we adjusted. So it's exactly what we've been doing. So I think it's great. Suzanne, roll call, please.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Himmler.
4.
Counselor Kiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Riley.
She left.
She just had to leave, Suzanne.
Thank you. Counselor Terrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item N under miscellaneous, discussion resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the Connecticut Brownfield remediation and revitalization program application. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council authorizes the town manager to sign the Connecticut Brownfield remediation and revitalization program application, subject to review by the town attorney, review and approval by the town attorney, prepared by our Office of Community Development on October 28, 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
Muller, seconded by Councilor Mangini. I know Nelson's on.
Yep. This is in reference to the Kelly Fredette property. Nelson brought this to me. We had the town attorney review it. It's sort of like an insurance indemnification clause in case something is found that will protect the town. So Nelson, give a quick sketch. The town attorney reviewed it, but I wanted council to authorize me to sign it.
Welcome, Nelson. Just name and title, and you have the floor, sir.
Yes, Nelson Teresa, Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development. Good evening, Town Council. This is basically a liability relief cleanup program. Little background, the 98 Prospect Street, town owned. We acquired it in 2017. being a tax lien foreclosure. And at that time, we had received a grant from the state of Connecticut, a brownfield grant, for the environmental investigation and the cleanup of the property. The town, since that time, has completed the environmental investigation. The cleanup involves, in a nutshell, removal of underground storage tanks, solid waste, removal of solid waste debris, building slabs, off-site disposal of contaminated soils. A lot of the remaining contaminated soils will remain on site and will be consolidated and capped as part of the redevelopment. Fortunately for us, we do have a developer. Town's working with Kelly Fredette, the abutter, who's committed to acquiring the property. They are committing to invest their hard-earned dollars in expanding their business by creating and building a 10,000 square foot storage facility and a paved parking lot. They've already gone out to the Zoning Board of Appeals and received a variance for their site plan. They were going to proceed with the site plan approval process this year, but unfortunately due to COVID-19, the owner had to focus his task on his operations. But throughout the entire summer, they have been working with architects and with our planning office on a site plan approval. We are at the final stages of submitting that site plan approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, all this is really, again, it's required by the state, but it's a benefit to the town. It's an assurance that we give the DEP that we're going to complete the cleanup in accordance with the state regulations for the environmental cleanup. But in turn, they provide us with basically an insurance policy. They provide us with a liability relief from any third party. Let's say during the cleanup, there's off-site contamination that's found as a result of the cleanup. The state steps in and basically takes the risk of anybody suing the town for off-site contamination. And we're only required to remediate what's on-site. So the state understands that the town basically takes up all the risk in these cleanups because the property's underwater, which means it's worth less than what the cleanup costs more than what the property's worth. So in turn, they provide us with this, with us being able to enter this program at no cost to the town. So we're basically partnering with the state on the cleanup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Well done.
Any questions from anyone? Nelson, just quick, once and for all that property's cleaned up, it's going to really help that corner of Prospect Street. Any idea when they actually will? Is it next summer?
The plan is next summer. They were going to do it, the goal was this fall. I'll be quite honest with you, Mayor Ludwig. They, when speaking with the owner, I met with him multiple times this year. It's like, Nelson, I can't proceed now. I'm focusing all my operations on, the pandemic and my business. Yep. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this August, we had a big meeting with our environmental consultant, our planning office, their architect. He's already invested time and dollars in building in designing the building and the parking structure. He wanted to level the site off, and there was a lot of costs that he was gonna, bear on him because there needs to be a retaining wall. And we told him, the grant's gotta be specifically used towards a cleanup. We don't have enough money to assist them with the redevelopment. He's got to invest his money in any, the building itself. We can invest a portion of the money on the parking lot, but not all of it. Again, there's only so far the grant can go towards, and he's aware of that. So, but in a nutshell, this is entering into a program with the state, which gives us basically an insurance policy from the state that if there is, and it does happen, during construction, you can hit an oil tank, and there's a plume off site, and there's Amtrak to the west, and to the south there's another abutter, so you just never know. So the state's going to partner with the town on providing the necessary liability relief.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Himmler.
4.
Councilor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Mancini.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Councilor Sferrazzo.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
It's 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to item O, under miscellaneous, discussion resolution. A resolution authorizing the town manager or his designee to execute and sign documents for the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation's acquisition of property located at 12 South River Street. Whereas the town of Enfield owns a parcel of land located at 12 South River Street, known as the property. Whereas the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation, known as the state, is acquiring property for the replacement of bridge number 04506, which carries South River Street over Freshwater Brook, and whereas the state is offering $4,500 for the property, and easement based upon the appraisal prepared for a license by a licensed real estate appraiser, now therefore be resolved, the town council authorize the town manager or his designee to execute and sign all documents necessary for the state's acquisition of property located at 12 South River Street, prepared by the town attorney's office on October 15, 2020.
So moved.
By Councilor Mangini, seconded by Councilor Muller.
It's as simple as that, and the town attorney has been working with the state and brought this forward at their request to help us get the bridge replaced, and this is a necessary component. He's here for any questions.
Any questions from anyone? Pretty straightforward. Deputy Mayor Suzak?
I just had one question. It's a small portion of the property.
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact dimension, but as it came through, I recall as a sliver of land is how it was described.
It is, and I had a citizen call me because they were concerned that we were selling the whole thing, and I just wanted to make that clear to them that it's just this small amount.
That is correct. It's a sliver of land.
Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemel.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Item P, discuss a resolution authorizing the town manager to amend the lease between the town of Enfield and Education Resources for Children, Inc. Whereas the current lease with Education Resources for Children, Inc., also known as ERFC, began May 14, 2019, and expires on June 30, 2024. Whereas the lease was someone say the word. It's getting late. Subsequently amended on August 26, 2019 and September 8, 2020. Whereas ERFC intends to suspend the before and after-school care program on November 16th until the time when Enfield Public Schools returns to a 5-day in-person schedule, unknown date, and whereas ERFC will move the students from their before and after-school care program to the Enfield Annex Distance Learning Center, whereas ERFC has requested that the lease be amended for the purposes of changing the location of the before and after-school care program from the schools described in the lease in both amendments to the Enfield Annex, and whereas ERFC has further requested that the rental payments set forth in Section 3 rent of the lease are suspended for the duration of the relocation of the before and after-school program to the Enfield Annex. Now therefore be it resolved, the town manager is authorized to execute the third amendment to lease to be prepared by the Office of the Town Attorney, prepared by Kasia Priscilla, our Assistant Town Manager, on October 29, 2020.
So moved.
By Councilor Muller, second by Deputy Mayor Suzak.
The council has been updated and briefed about this matter. It was a proposal from our friend and partner, Claire Hall of the ERFC. Our Assistant Town Manager, Kasia Priscilla, is available. She's been instrumental in negotiating this and working between the council and ERFC. So if you have any additional questions, she's available to answer them.
Councilor Keiner, any questions? Any questions from anyone in the council? No, Kasia, just good. I mean, it's just another example, again, trying to help working families out, through this process, and partner with ERFC has been, very helpful to, to helping working families trying to provide some sort of child care / education for their children. I don't know, Kasia, if I misspoke anything.
No, Mayor, that was perfect. I don't have anything to add at this time.
Perfect, thank you. Seeing no other questions, roll call, please, Suzanne.
Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Hemler.
4.
Counselor Keiner.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Counselor Sferrazza.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, no abstentions.
Thank you, Suzanne. Item 16, public communications. Since we have no one here, we will move on to item 17. Are there any councilor communications? Yeah, go.
I would just beg your indulgence. I know everybody's tired. We had a very full agenda, but I would just like to make a public plea. As I told you, we had a very successful Enfield Farmers Market that concluded a week ago. We were very innovative, and Kasha Perciello had a good idea. People had asked us, both vendors and residents, could you find an indoor locale? We did, the Enfield Square. They have become a true partner with us. They were or are willing to allow us to go there at no cost. We could have music. We sent out applications. We had over 43 vendors respond. But I'll just tell you that the state of Connecticut, the Department of Agriculture, to be exempted as essential service, the farmers market needs to have farmers, which makes sense. But in the winter, it's not so easy to come by. So I'll just say to anybody listening, anybody out there, we are going door to door in the area towns because we don't have the requisite two. And without that, we cannot proceed. So if you know anybody, any farmers, produce, vegetables that are bona fide farmers, please reach out to see. Tell them we'll give them the best position. We'll give them a kiosk inside. We'll help them unload. But without them, I'm afraid we won't be able to have the farmers market. So we tried, but the next day or two will be, crucial. If we can't get them, we'll have to just announce that we're not going to be able to proceed. But we have over 43 vendors that want to come. We're looking to see what Kraft, but all the others don't seem to be exempted. The town attorney is being innovative. We got the sign off from the Department of Health, the fire marshal, the square. I thought we were there. Whoever thought we wouldn't be able to get two farms.
What about dairy? Is dairy?
Dairy, it has to be produce. And Kasha?
Can it be dairy?
Yep, it has to be fresh produce, so fruits or vegetables that cannot be processed.
So if
we do
anybody's-
have some dairy, but it does not have.
So this time of year, if anybody's raising cabbage or picking apples, send them to us.
Does it have to be local, or can it be?
No, it just has to be a bona fide farm. We try to go
Okay,
local. but-
Or can it be I guess.
No.
It can't be anything that's like grown in Connecticut and they have a kitchen that they do canning from their farm.
Has to be fresh.
Yeah,
It
they're
has to be
very,
fresh
they're
produce.
very insistent on
Okay,
that.
so that way everybody knows
Yeah.
what they need.
We're going to put it out there, but, okay. Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Sfraza.
Any other, Councilor Sparza?
I just want to shout out to Mr. Kiner to congratulate you on your retirement bill, and I wish you success and good health. That's all.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah, Councilor Muller. Second by Councilman Jean. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Carl, for those remarks.